100 times enhancement triggered. Recruiting 1010 Lionheart Knights. As the notification appeared, 1010 Lionheart Knights appeared in front of Fang Hao. The knights rode on brown horses, stepping out in a magnificent manner. Upon recognizing the situation, the knights dismounted in unison, took a knee and greeted. Our respects to you, Lord. Good, welcome to the team. Then Fang Hao called out to the distance. Aseti. Aseti quickly walked over. My lord, Aseti. These cavaliers are under your command for now. When we go to Lis City this time, we can't take so many people. Some need to stay behind to help Fu Lei with the defensive duties, Fang Hao said. The group of 1010 knights was not large, but there were indeed constraints on the number of people going to Lis City. If they really approached the city with 1000 well-equipped cavalrymen, alarm bells would likely be raised immediately, with the whole city entering a state of alert. Even if they announced their identity, they would not be allowed to enter the city with 1,000 knights. Therefore, most of the 1010 knights recruited this time will be left to Fu Lei to perform peripheral patrol tasks. Yes, my lord, Aseti responded. Next, he said to the entire team of knights, everyone, bring your steeds and gather outside the gate. All the knights responded, bringing their horses out of the city. Fang Hao also began inspecting the Lionheart Knight's attributes. Lionheart Knight Tier 8. Allegiance, human. Racial traits, living creature, learning. Skills, Royal Knight, unstoppable steed. Innate skills, advanced horseback riding mastery. Advanced halberd mastery, advanced swordsmanship mastery. Royal Knight, a cavalry signal corps trained strictly under royal doctrines. Familiar with diverse cavalry formations. Capable of immediately executing them. Unstoppable steed, in the mounted state. Any slowing effects are reduced by 50%. Description: Lionheart Knights, composed of the kingdom's most elite knights. They hold high positions, achieve extraordinary feats, uphold the knight's honor, and adhere to the codes of the kingdom's knights. The Lionheart Knights only had 2 skills, but the Tier 8 attributes combined with mobility and charging abilities of the Royal Cavalry make it a formidable soldier unit. It could perfectly meet the shortage of cavalry in the territory. Coming to the outside of the city, he saw Aseti addressing the knights. Fang Hao didn't bother them but started crafting equipment for the knights on the side. 100 times enhancement triggered. Obtaining 202 Temple Guardian sets. 100 times enhancement triggered. Obtaining 202 Thunderblade halberds. 100 times enhancement triggered. Obtaining 202 Thunderblade cloaks. 100 times enhancement triggered. Obtaining 808 Storm Fine Iron sets. 100 times enhancement triggered. Obtaining 1010 Thick Leather Horse masks. 100 times enhancement triggered. Obtaining 1010 Sturdy White Steel Horse armor sets. 100 times enhancement triggered. Obtaining 1010 Black Iron stirrups. Fang Hao stood in the open area outside the city, and many pieces of equipment fell from above, due to the insufficient amount of fine iron. He only made 202 Temple Guardian sets. For the rest, he was only able to equip the Blue Storm Fine Iron sets. Apart from the soldiers' equipment, this time they added equipment for the horses. The horse armor and horse face masks were obtained quite a while ago but were only created now. Aseti, Fang Hao called. Aseti rode on the Wind Demon over to him. My lord, this is the equipment made for the knights. You organize everyone to put them on. After you're finished, we should set off as soon as possible. Fang Hao continued. Their outing this time was to go to Lis City, and they couldn't afford too much delay in the middle. Yes, my lord. Aseti answered and started organizing the knights to distribute the equipment. The biggest advantage of living soldiers over undead ones is their wisdom. After the order was issued, the knights voluntarily put the equipment on their horses and picked up their own weapons and gear. Half an hour later, the knights, escorting the vehicles, set off again. A fishing village in the south. Fu Lei stood at the entrance of the village, looking sternly at a group of individuals across from him. What is your intention? You've been causing trouble here again and again. Do you think we're easy targets? Bullying us as you please? Fu Lei said coldly. Across from Fu Lei and the villagers was a bandit group composed of humans and orcs. These bandits' weapons were a hodgepodge of cleavers, machetes, sticks, even wooden forks. They had it all. These people only came here recently. At first, they just robbed the fishermen of the goods they fished up. Now that their number of bandits have increased to over 300, they not only rob things, but have damaged many fishing boats and tools over these last 2 days. This has made the fishermen afraid to go out and work, and Fu Lei has had to bring troops over to deal with this situation. When he came, he wasn't aware of the bandits' numbers and brought only 50 heavy sword infantry and 100 militias. Also, the village guards from the village gathered nearly 300 people, almost equaling the number of bandits. The situation was stuck in a stalemate. The leader of the bandits was a human, a bulky figure with a scar on his face and a thick beard. After sizing up Fu Lei, he said, "Boy, are there no adults in your home who let you come out to make a stand? Don't piss your pants if a real fight breaks out." Haha. As soon as the bandit leader finished speaking, a burst of laughter came from behind him. Fu Lei was still a school student. Even though he had been helping the fishermen with their work recently, he still looked much younger. For these people who relied on plunder for survival, Fu Lei's warning was anything but threatening. It was a joke to them. Hearing the bandits laugh, Fu Lei continued, "Tell me your intentions. You've come here more than once, surely. You're not here just to sightsee. Oh, you think you can call the shots here? I think you'd better call your master instead." The bandit leader continued. Fu Lei paused slightly, sensing a message from the Book of Lords. After checking, his expression became much calmer and he said, "I do have authority, so go ahead and state your intentions directly." "Good, if you can call the shots that's even better. We brothers have set up a fortress in the mountains. From today onwards, all the fishing villages around this lake will have to present us with food and money every month in our fortress. Otherwise, we'll come down and visit you daily," the leader loudly declared. The followers behind him were continuously nodding, agreeing with what their boss said. "Now that you've told us where your fortress is, aren't you afraid that I'll contact the guards of Pearl City and wipe it out?" Fu Lei continued. The leader sneered, disdainfully saying, "If the guards arrive, we will run, and when they leave, we will return to destroy your property. No one will live peacefully, and if cornered, everyone will die together." Upon hearing the leader's response, the villagers cursed these guys for their shameless bullying. If these were genuinely ruthless bandits, it would be one thing. But these guys were nothing more than a bunch of rascals. They probably didn't have the capability to take over the village, but they were capable of causing chaos, taking advantage when there were fewer people to rob stuff. And sometimes, they came at night to destroy all the fishing boats and equipment. They were simply trying to stir up trouble, making everyone pay tribute to them every month. No one was willing to do so. Fu Lei glanced once more at the Book of Lords and continued, "With such a small crew, you can't eat that much grain. Why do you want so much food? Stop chatting and just follow my orders. I've already told you, I want both food and money. Can't you understand?" The leader impatiently responded. He had no idea why the young man standing in front of him was rambling on instead of just complying. "Don't get agitated, I need to understand clearly. How much money are you demanding from each village?" Fu Lei asked. "Each village should give us 100 silver a month. Not that much, right? We're showing you mercy by not asking for more." The leader, after glancing at his followers, continued. "Oh, by the way, what's your name, boss? And how old are you?" The leader's face immediately became furious, and he cursed. "Are you out of your mind? If you don't wish to pay, just say so. My brothers and I will pay you more visits in the evening. We don't need to waste time discussing." Fu Lei heard a prompt from the Book of Lords again. Upon checking, he continued, "That's not what I meant. I agree to your terms. There are 6 fishing villages nearby, so I will prepare 600 silver for you all." Really? The bandit leader was stunned. Could things go this smoothly? Did he ask for too little? Of course, but you'll have to wait a while. With such a large amount, we need some time to gather the funds. Fu Lei casually glanced at the far end as he spoke. "Excellent, wonderful. Go and prepare it now. We give you our word, once we receive the payment, we won't disturb you for the rest of the month." With a slap on his chest, the bandit confidently assured. Inwardly, he was overjoyed, thinking about how easy it was to make money through robbery. With just a little intimidation, they were going off to prepare the money obediently. He indeed had the fate of a leader. Good, I believe in your integrity. Then please wait a while, don't go, or we won't be able to find your fort," Fu Lei said. "Hurry up, we won't leave. Why are you hesitating?" "All right, we will go and collect the money now," Saying this, Fu Lei led his subordinates and the villagers back into the village. With a loud bang, the village gate was firmly closed. The sound of the gate caused the bandits to be stunned. They were just chatting nicely, but in the blink of an eye, the gate was closed, as if they were taking refuge. Boss, do they not want to pay? A minion asked. The leader also scratched his head uncertainly. It doesn't seem like it. Why would they bother talking so much at the start if they didn't want to pay? Then one of the minions noticed something was not right. Boss, something is wrong. Archers are on the walls. Are they trying to trick us? Once the village gates were closed, the archers had ascended the walls. Although they were not attacking, they were on high alert. The leader cautiously took a look and said, "Let's move back a little. I don't believe they would dare to play tricks." The bandits began to withdraw from the archers' range, patiently waiting. After waiting for around 20 minutes, just as the bandits were getting impatient and about to question if the villagers had prepared the money, suddenly, they heard the sound of frenzied hoofbeats in the distance. All the bandits turned their heads to look. They saw 1,000 cavalrymen charging towards them. Everyone was stunned. What's happening? How could there be cavalrymen here and such a well-equipped ones at that? Boss, is it reinforcement called by those guys? What do we do? Someone asked. But once everyone turned around, they realized their leader had run off with several others. Already a dozen meters away. Still not looking back, they ran hard into the distance. By this moment, the remaining people realized the seriousness of the situation, dropped their weapons, and started to flee as well. Thump, thump, thump. Aseti led the way. Helped by Wind Demon, he gave a speed boost to the whole cavalry. The entire cavalry was as if riding the wind, swiftly chasing after the fleeing bandits. Fang Hao had already issued the attack order. This battle, there were no prisoners, and no surrenders were accepted. Everyone had to be eliminated, spare no mercy. The speed of the cavalry kept increasing, getting closer and closer to their enemies. "Kill!" roared Aseti, raising his long sword above his head and crying out the word. The trees all around remained still. Yet a whirlwind appeared around Fang Hao and his cavalry unit, pushing all the cavalry members to speed up. In the blink of an eye, they were already behind the fleeing bandits. "Kill!" Aseti shouted weightily. "Kill!" echoed the troops in the cavalry, their roars neatly in sync. Thump, thump, plunk. The cavalry passed over the fleeing bandits, making a circle in the front, and then swiftly returned to the front of the village, the ground they had just passed. More than 300 bandits, including the arrogant bearded leader, all died right there. Blood dyed the soil red, their bodies shattered under the hooves. Stopping before the village, Aseti called in a low voice, "Who here is Fu Lei?" Creak! The village gate opened, and Fu Lei quickly stepped out. After glancing at the bodies in the distance, he quickly said, "Thank you, Captain Aseti, for your rescue." Knowing the status and the name of the heroes, Fu Lei naturally knew this orange cavalry hero was one of Fang Hao's subordinates. "Your lord has left 800 cavalry members under your command. They are in charge of the security around the fishing village," Aseti stated plainly. Seeing these brave cavalrymen, a look of joy immediately surfaced on Fu Lei's face. This is the 8th rank of cavalry. Leaving 800 people to him is more than enough to cope with the security around. Most importantly, the cavalry is awesome. "Yes, I understand," Fu Lei replied, with no further words. Aseti spurred his horse and left with 200 cavalrymen. Fu Lei watched Aseti and all the golden-armored cavalrymen leave, leaving behind 800 regular armored ones for him. The impressive feeling of the cavalry's might felt greatly diminished in an instant. The caravan stopped for the night at the Grey Bear stronghold. At noon the next day, the caravan successfully arrived at Lis City. The 200 golden-armored cavalrymen, with a convoy approaching the city walls, still caused a certain amount of chaos. Those who knew that the convoy was carrying offerings to the temple. Those who didn't thought it was a royal noble family visiting. Even the usually serious gatekeepers bowed their heads a little and leaned them toward the carriage window. They respectfully asked, "Sir, we need to see your documents to enter the city." Fang Hao pulled back the carriage curtain and said, "I am the cloth dealer from the bone textile store. The carriage is full of offerings to the temple. Here is the proof from the temple." Several proofs were handed over. "Oh, it turns out to be Mr. Fang Hao. According to the regulations, we need to check the contents of the carriage," said the guard. "Okay. In fact, Fang Hao's face was already quite recognizable, but this time bringing so many carriages, and with the cavalry, he still needed to undergo a special check. After the inspection, with no suspicious items found, he was allowed to proceed. After entering the city, Fang Hao sent the horses and caravan to the lodging. Then he took his men to the temple. The group headed straight to the temple. A priestess approached, looking slightly nervous. "Sir, may I help you with something?" With hundreds of people coming, they obviously weren't here to pray at the temple. Fang Hao took out his certificate and said, "This is a certificate issued by Priestess Miriam. This time, I brought some assistants here to learn." "Oh, I know about that. You are Mr. Fang Hao, right? Priestess Miriam has informed us about this." The priestess realized that this was indeed something that had been arranged. Priestess Miriam had informed them about this half a month ago. However, the challenge from the system delayed Fang Hao's plans, causing the people to arrive a week late. This made the priestesses momentarily forget about this matter. "Oh, that's good. Is Priestess Miriam here?" Fang Hao continued to ask. Since Miriam was aware of this in advance, it saved him further explanations. "Mr. Fang Hao, unfortunately, Priestess Miriam has gone to the city lord's mansion and is not here," the priestess answered. Hearing the mention of the city lord's mansion, Fang Hao frowned. The previous few times they called for Miriam, it was because someone was injured. This time, he hoped that there were no issues at the city lord's mansion. "What's wrong with the city lord's mansion?" Fang Hao continued to ask. The priestess looked at Fang Hao and said, "We don't know either." Seeing that she was unwilling to answer, Fang Hao said, "I've brought the people. Also, these are the donations for the temple." They needed to give the temple some benefits to keep the people there. The donated items all carried the Bone Textile Store logo, not only satisfying the temple but also providing advertising for his store. It was a win-win situation. However, it was a shame that Miriam wasn't there today. Else he could have spoken to her directly. It wasn't a big problem. Once she was back, the priestess would inform her. Seeing Fang Hao donate a heap of goods, the priestess's face lit up with delight. "Thank you, Mr. Fang Hao. I will report this to Priestess Miriam." Fang Hao nodded and then said to the people who were staying at the temple, "You all need to study hard, and when you're done, I'll send someone to bring you back." "Yes, sir." Over 200 people saluted in unison. The priestess left with the 200 people and the donated goods while Fang Hao returned to his residence. After dinner, Fang Hao headed straight to the city lord's mansion. Guided by a maid, he arrived at Rebecca's study. In the room, besides Rebecca, the city lord, Aubrey was also there. However, Aubrey looked extremely upset, appearing as though he'd just finished arguing with someone. Seeing the maid bringing Fang Hao in, Aubrey coldly said, "You have to take responsibility for this. You've stirred up fear throughout the whole city. Let's see how you handle it." After saying this, Aubrey angrily stormed off. As he passed Fang Hao, he looked at him, his eyes filled with revulsion and murderous intent. Bang! Aubrey left, slamming the door on his way out. Fang Hao was puzzled, sensing the hostility towards him in Aubrey's eyes. "Why are you glaring at me when you were arguing with Rebecca? I don't even know you." Could he think that I've cuckolded him? But no. Aubrey was only Rebecca's husband in name and nothing had actually happened between them. So, he couldn't be considered a cuckold. And most importantly, I didn't cheat. Seeing Fang Hao in a daze, Rebecca asked, "I heard you brought several hundred people into the city." News traveled really fast. He entered the city in the afternoon and by evening, Rebecca had already heard about it. Among them, 200 are assistant priests sent to the temple. The rest are my guards. "I'm also afraid of the faceless," Fang Hao said helplessly. "You can enter the city, but you have to control your men. If there's any chaos in the city, I won't consider any prior friendship," Rebecca warned. From her tone, it seemed like she was still upset about the previous argument. Her words to Fang Hao were also somewhat forceful. "Yes, I understand." Fang Hao sat down and continued. "Has there been any progress in the plan against the faceless?" After hearing what the priestess had said at the temple, Fang Hao had some suspicions. Calling someone over to the city lord's mansion was likely because of injured city guards, hence calling the temple for medical assistance. Therefore, Fang Hao went directly to the city lord's mansion to inquire about the situation. Fang Hao and Rebecca were in a partnership regarding the situation with the faceless, and they would exchange some information with each other. It's still about dealing with Lei Lai, Rebecca said, massaging her forehead. Lei Lai? You made a move on him. How did it go? Did you get anything out of him? Fang Hao continued to ask. The fact that Lei Lai was a faceless was something that Fang Hao had informed Rebecca about before he left. He didn't expect them to have already taken action when he returned. Nothing. I underestimated Lei Lai's power in the city. Even though I had prepared enough people in advance, he still managed to escape in the end, Rebecca said helplessly. Upon entering the city guards mentioned that the West District had been sealed off. This, and the priestess mentioning someone at the city lord's mansion was injured, were all related to their attempt to capture Lei Lai. Even though Rebecca had prepared thoroughly, Lei Lai still managed to escape during the capture process. Not catching such a rogue was a risk to the whole city. Who knew what he would do when he went mad? What's the plan now? Fang Hao continued to ask. We don't have a precise plan yet. The entire city is still trying to catch Lei Lai and bring him back as soon as possible, Rebecca said. Fang Hao nodded but didn't say anything more. After all, he didn't have a better solution either. Fang Hao did possess significant power, and his subordinates were very strong. But the problem with capturing the faceless man was that there was nowhere to start, which was the real difficulty. By the way, the soldiers you brought are quite well equipped. Rebecca suddenly looked up and curiously glanced at Fang Hao. She was probably referring to the equipment of the Lionheart Knights. The Temple Guardians' gear they were wearing was indeed very eye-catching. It's not bad. So, I want to order some of the same armor. You named the price, Rebecca said. Fang Hao wasn't surprised. He inferred her intention as soon as she spoke. But the Temple Guardians' gear required fine iron as a material, and Fang Hao had already used all the fine iron in his territory. Although there was ongoing forging with the dwarves, it wasn't something that could be mass-produced easily. After some thought, Fang Hao said, with the golden armor, we don't have any surplus. We do have a storm-heavy armor set though, which is suitable for the Lis City army. Rebecca stared at Fang Hao, finding hard to believe his claim about the shortage of golden armor. Over 200 cavalrymen, all wearing golden armor. Why is it that when she wants to buy, there's suddenly a shortage? You don't want to sell? Or are you afraid my offer is too low? Rebecca stared at Fang Hao. Neither, we genuinely don't have enough. If you want 1 or 2 sets, I can spare them from the army. But equipping an entire army is impossible, Fang Hao said directly. All right, build 2 sets for me. And I'll also check out your storm gear. If it's good enough, I might consider buying in bulk, Rebecca replied without hesitation. Now, Rebecca realized she had underestimated Fang Hao. This guy, every time he came over, he would surprise her more and more. Rebecca was fully confident that not only was Fang Hao wealthy, his military power was surely not inferior to her own Lis City. She couldn't afford to treat him just as a cloth merchant anymore. That can be arranged, but just a heads up, this armor isn't cheap. I won't be giving it to you for free, Fang Hao declared at once. Rebecca glared at him angrily. How much? You make it sound like I'm taking advantage of you. Fang Hao calculated in his mind. Purple gear, even at the Trade Alliance settlement, was priced very high. After some thought, he quoted, that kind of golden armor would cost 1 million warfire coins per set. What? Rebecca, who was drinking water, spat it right out. 1 million for a single set, in warfire coins no less. He was practically robbing her blind. Have you gone mad? Why would I? Each set is purple gear. Even at the Trade Alliance auction, it would fetch a higher price. If it weren't for our good relations, I wouldn't even sell it to you, Fang Hao immediately replied. If it weren't for their previous collaborations and Rolana's ongoing partnership with Rebecca, Fang Hao wouldn't really sell to her. He sold gear that was a notch below his own territory's power level. This purple gear, which even he hadn't widely distributed. To let her have 2 sets was already a lot. Fine, deliver these 2 sets. I need someone to check if they are worth the price. Then I can sign off on them. Rebecca nodded in agreement. Sure, someone will deliver them tomorrow. The two reached an agreement and chatted for a while. By the way, Aubrey is hosting a banquet the day after tomorrow. You should come too. It's a good chance to meet the others in the city. As Fang Hao was leaving, Rebecca added, Aubrey was hosting a banquet? Fang Hao had no interest in this soft-hearted city lord. But since Rebecca had said so, it would be impolite to decline. Okay, I'll be there. Fang Hao nodded and promptly left the study. After Fang Hao left, The maid walked in again. Ma'am, the Knight Commander Haber would like to see you. Rebecca nodded and followed the maid out. They walked through the long hallway. The maid spoke. Ma'am. Mr. Fang Hao's voice sounds different from before. When Rebecca heard this, her heart tightened. When it all started, Fang Hao spoke with a falsetto voice and his movements were very effeminate. However, he eventually returned to normal, indistinguishable from any other man. In that moment, Rebecca realized that Fang Hao had been pretending all along. She thought back to when he had seen her completely naked, when she was chatting with him and allowing him to help her dress and put on jewelry. Her cheeks flamed up as she flushed in embarrassment. That damn guy. You're not allowed to mention this to anyone, Rebecca said sternly. Yes, ma'am. The two of them walked out of the city lord's mansion, escorted by the guards, and boarded a carriage. After dinner, Fang Hao requested to have the temple guardian set and storm fine iron set delivered to the city lord's mansion. He opened the Book of Lords to check the chat channel. 3 days had passed since the task of relocating the demon rat population was given. Because there was no time limit, the demon rat swarms wouldn't disappear as usual. This resulted in a prolonged battle. Some lords were still battling the demon rats. The neighboring lords were supporting each other, discussing how to exterminate the demon rats. After all, if left unattended, it could pose an even greater danger. Just as Fang Hao was about to go to bed, a maid came to him and said someone wanted to see him. Upon reaching the front hall, the maid brought a visitor inside. He had assumed it was someone sent by Rebecca, but it turned out to be a transmigrator he knew. That transmigrator had miraculously survived the faceless ones. His name was Ren Jun, it seemed. Boss Fang Hao. Ren Jun called out immediately. The heroes accompanying Fang Hao looked at him when they heard this title. Ren Jun, why are you in the city again? Fang Hao asked curiously. Boss, I had no choice. A few more people have gone missing recently. I had to hide in the city during the day and didn't dare to come until night, Ren Jun said with a grimace. Ren Jun had come to the city today to buy supplies and originally planned to leave during the day. When he heard that Fang Hao was there, he immediately came to find Fang Hao. The missing transmigrators that Ren Jun mentioned were probably the corpses that Rebecca found a few days ago. However, all those people were already dead. Is there danger recently? Fang Hao asked, frowning. Considering that Rebecca had already clashed with the faceless ones, they probably didn't have the energy to target the transmigrators anymore. But judging by Ren Jun's appearance, danger was still present. There is danger. Boss Fang Hao, can you help us? Ren Jun asked, rubbing his hands nervously. You guys? Yes, there are 3 of us. All lords located near Lis City. And how do you want me to help you? Fang Hao asked. As for the faceless ones in Lis City, although Fang Hao had remained silent in the chat channel, he had fully warned other lords near Lis City about a faceless organization. The warning was given, but whether these nearby lords saw it or whether they believed it could not be guaranteed. Furthermore, Fang Hao couldn't assign them protection. If he were too enthusiastic, they might think that he was the scammer with ulterior motives. Now that Ren Jun was asking for help, Fang Hao didn't know what kind of help he wanted. We want to leave, but we don't know where to go. I wonder if we can take shelter in your territory for some time. Ren Jun said. Leave your territory? You're giving it up? We want to stay alive. Recently, all 3 of us have noticed people spying around our territories. The other 2 might manage somehow, but I have lost my Book of Lords, and I can't exchange supplies. I can only come to the city. If this goes on, they will take me away sooner or later, Ren Jun said with a grimace. Last time he was captured by the faceless ones, they took his Book of Lords, and he hadn't managed to retrieve it. Luckily, even without the Book of Lords, the villagers in his territory recognized him. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to return to his territory. So the other 2 agreed to leave and seek shelter first. It's normal that Ren Jun loses his Book of Lords and wants to seek refuge. But for the other 2 lords he mentioned, as long as they had the Book of Lords and didn't leave their territories, the Faceless could not gather armies to attack their territories. After all, the Faceless is an intelligence organization. The number of desperate people they could round up might not even be as many as the present transmigrators. Therefore, as long as they stayed in their territory and didn't wander about, there wouldn't be much of a problem. I mentioned this to them previously, and they agreed that rather than living here in constant fear, It would be better to move to a safer place to avoid the storm, Renjun said. It seemed that the three of them had already discussed this. What about your territories then? The trouble with the faceless may not end anytime soon. If you keep staying outside, do you not want your territories anymore? Fang Hao continued to ask. Renjun forced a bitter smile, depending on the situation. We will reconsider the territorial matters once we are safe. Sir, we still have some strength. And I still have some skills. I can work for you. Renjun had experienced an interrogation by the faceless. Even though he survived by a stroke of luck, he was left traumatized. This experience was something he definitely did not want to go through again. Now that another transmigrator had died at the hands of the faceless, even within his territory, he was living in a state of constant tension every day. If he didn't leave here, he feared that he would either die at the hands of the faceless or go mad. Today, having met Fang Hao, he made up his mind to try and see if he could join Fang Hao and leave here temporarily. Since you have made up your mind, I can temporarily provide you with some help. How many people do you have? Fang Hao thought and said. Providing some help to the transmigrators was not much for Fang Hao. All he needed to do was to let Fu Lei arrange for some people to take them to the fishing village. There were plenty of villages there, which would be enough for them to live for a while. And with the strength in Fang Hao's hands at present, even if they were given 100 lives, they wouldn't be able to cause any trouble. Hearing Fang Hao's agreement, Renjun's face lit up immediately. He quickly thanked him. Thank you, sir, thank you very much. We are 3 people. As for the people from our territory, we'll see. We may not necessarily bring them. All right, no problem. We'll leave it at that for tonight. You go back and prepare tomorrow morning. And I'll arrange for someone to escort you away, Fang Hao said. All right, all right. Renjun nodded and looked at the sky outside. At this time, the city gates were closed. He had nowhere to go. Winnie, Fang Hao called out. The innkeeper, Winnie, came in, sir. Winnie, arrange a room for him. A house near the knight's core, Fang Hao said. Yes, sir. Winnie agreed, turned and walked out. Renjun kept thanking Fang Hao and followed them out. As he was leaving, Fang Hao reminded him, Renjun, there are many rules here, don't come out at night. Yes, I understand. Renjun agreed and left the hall with Winnie. After explaining everything, Fang Hao, along with Angia, returned to his room to rest. Early the next morning, Renjun returned to his own territory under the escort of 10 Lionheart Knights. He also went to inform the other 2 lords. At noon, they waited outside the north gate of Lis City for Fu Lei to come and pick them up. After Renjun left, a new guest arrived at the mansion. It was originally thought that Rebecca had sent the order for the armor. But when he saw the person, he found out that it was an assistant priest from the temple. Mr. Fang Hao, Priest Miriam asks for your presence, the assistant priest said respectfully. After all, Fang Hao was the temple's biggest benefactor. The donations he made in 1 month were enough to match the amount donated by all the wealthy businessmen in the entire city in 1 year. Now, everything used in the temple had the mark of the bone. Do you know why Priest Miriam is looking for me? Fang Hao asked curiously. Priest Miriam, the old woman, was rather traditional. He wondered if she regretted the fact that he had sent so many apprentices, and now wanted to go back on her word. I'm not quite sure. If you have time, could you please visit the temple? The assistant priest said. Fang Hao nodded. He went back to his room to change his clothes and then followed them out of the mansion, and got into the carriage. In the carriage sat Angia and Demetrija, and Aseti along with 20 Lionheart Knights were on either side of the carriage. They soon arrived at the temple. Fang Hao went into the temple, and under the guidance of the assistant priest, came to a room. The Lionheart Knights instantly secured the room, and guarded it rigorously. Not long after, Miriam also entered the room. Are you afraid that I'll harm you that you brought so many people? Miriam said as she walked through the door. Compared to the 20 golden armored guards outside the door, and the 3 heroes in the room, even if Rebecca came, there wouldn't be such grand arrangements. I can't help it. Rebecca said there are many who mean me harm, so I need to be careful when I go out. Fang Hao said helplessly. Miriam was aware of the recent events in the city. These squabbles among the powerful merchants and nobility didn't interest her at all. Right, what did Priest Miriam want to see me about? Did any of my people break the rules? Fang Hao continued to ask. The orcs among the people he had sent lived different lifestyle habits and found it hard to control their emotions. I'm afraid that some of them might lose control and cause trouble. It's not these matters. Doesn't Mr. Fang Hao have a mercenary troop? I have a task here, but I don't know if Mr. Fang Hao is interested. Priest Miriam spoke indifferently. A job? This made Fang Hao glance at Miriam again, confirming that she was not joking with him. The temple holds a special status within a city. Any dangerous or peculiar tasks are usually handed over to the city lord's house for handling. There's no need to issue tasks to mercenaries. But since she mentioned it, Fang Hao needs to clarify before responding. What kind of task? Miriam, please elaborate so I can confirm whether the mercenaries are capable of carrying it out, said Fang Hao. At this time the door was knocked, and an assistant priest walked in. He placed several cups of fruit tea in front of them, and then quickly left with his head bowed. Not until the door was closed did Miriam continue. It's not an ordinary task. Some rats have appeared in the temple's backyard, which requires someone to handle. Oh, Priest Miriam, now is not the time to joke. My men are tough guys, and rat extermination really isn't our forte, said Fang Hao with a troubled look. Hiring mercenaries to catch rats? Although they had taken such tasks before, things were different now. Fang Hao wouldn't do such a thankless task, even if he has idle manpower available. Mr. Fang Hao, don't rush. I'm not talking about ordinary rats. Miriam picks up her fruit tea, takes a sip, and continues. The backyard of the temple has an entrance to the underground tunnel. An assistant priest, while cleaning, discovered rats stealing things, and even saw rats reading the temple's books. Rats reading books? For a moment, Fang Hao was reminded of a time when they hid in a cave, and they saw several rats in clothes, carrying nightstones for travel at night. It happened near Lis City. Yes, so I feel this matter is somewhat strange, and I thought I'd have Mr. Fang Hao take a look at it to prevent potential dangers in the future, said Miriam. Why don't you report it to the city lord's residence? They should handle this matter. After all, it is more convenient to inform the city lord's residence than to involve him and his men. But for some reason, Miriam came to him, with the relationship between the undead and the god of light at stake, and the entrance of the task being in the backyard of the temple. It's somewhat difficult to proceed. I have already reported it to the city lord's residence, but the city is in chaos, and this matter will probably be delayed for quite some time, said Miriam. The city's military actions relate to a few capture operations against faceless ones. These activities have got Rebecca on pins and needles. The task of dealing with the rat problem in the temple will definitely be postponed. As for the faceless one, they are not so easy to deal with, taking a year or more to end. Miriam's idea to find Fang Hao is understandable. Can you take us to the backyard to see? If it isn't too dangerous. He is considering helping Miriam to resolve the issue. After all, his 200 citizens are still learning in the temple, and more citizens will be sent here in the future. With such a relationship, it would be hard to refuse. Of course, this way please. Miriam stands up and leads Fang Hao out of the room. Outside, the Lionheart Knights standing at the door see Fang Hao and his group come out. They immediately protect them in middle position of the group. Together they followed Miriam, heading towards the rear of the temple. They passed through various buildings, and traversed the dormitories and cafeteria of the assistant priests. Miriam pointed to a building and said, "Some books are stored over there." An assistant priest discovered a rat reading a book there. They keep going forward, directly to the backyard. The backyard is spacious, with many busy assistant priests. Those few houses over there are used to store supplies. That house leads to the underground tunnel. Miriam continued to introduce, finally pointing to the stone house in the center. Fang Hao and his group approach and enter the stone house. They see a staircase extending downward. It extends all the way into the darkness. Priest Miriam, what is the underground tunnel you're referring to? Fang Hao asks while looking downwards. Miriam responds, Lis City was built much earlier than we think. Beneath the city is a comprehensive underground tunnel, mainly used for city sewage and drainage. Fang Hao nods. An underground tunnel, in other words, is a sewer system. Meanwhile, Fang Hao notices another thing that Miriam said. This city is older than they thought. That is, this city was not built by the first inhabitants. Instead, it was an existing city that the first inhabitants rebuilt and then settled in. In that case, the city beneath them has existed for hundreds of years, or even longer. One can't help but imagine that strange creatures live down there. Fang Hao looks at Miriam and whispers, I will accept this task, but now is not the time to deal with it. I will bring some people here tomorrow, and prepare some items to clear out the rats. Hearing Fang Hao's agreement, a smile appeared on Li's elderly face. Good, tomorrow will work, Miriam said. Fang Hao stood up and glanced around, then continued to ask, Is there a back door here? When we come tomorrow, there will be more of us and we will bring some weapons. I'm afraid coming in through the front door will cause chaos. Lis thought about it and agreed. Even the guards brought by Fang Hao had already caused quite a stir on their way there. If more people were to come tomorrow, carrying a large amount of weaponry, there could indeed be chaos. Miriam guided Fang Hao and his companions towards the right. There is a back door. It is rarely opened and is always guarded. Mr. Fang Hao, when you come with your people, you can go straight through this door. Just let the guard know. On the right, there was a single iron gate with an assistant priest on guard. Miriam walked forward to converse briefly with the assistant priest. The latter glanced at Fang Hao's group and gave a nod of approval. Soon, Miriam returned, with Fang Hao and the others. The group exited from the main door. I have explained everything. When the time comes, you can come directly through the back door. She will open it for you. Okay. The group made their way back the way they came. Fang Hao and others didn't linger and directly left the temple. They climbed into the carriage and returned to their own dwellings. Lis City, the North City Gate, including Ren Jun, 3 transmigrators, had packed their belongings, and were quietly waiting at the gate. All 3 were dressed as ordinary farmers, squatting by the roadside. They looked like laborers waiting for work. By midday, a troop of cavalry arrived, raising a cloud of dust in their wake. Ren Jun and the others were rather taken aback. All of them were 8th-rank cavalrymen, and there were close to 1,000 of them. Compared with the troops in Balisi City, their momentum was much greater. The person at the forefront removed his helmet, revealing a young transmigrator's appearance. The newcomer was Fu Lei, who had come specially to fetch them. Which one of you is Ren Jun? Fu Lei glanced at the trio. Their heads wrapped tightly, only their eyes visible. I am Ren Jun. Ren Jun quickly stood up. Fu Lei nodded, and continued to ask, Where are your villagers? Aren't you taking them with you this time? Ren Jun promptly replied. We thought about transporting all of them, but we were afraid it would attract the attention of the faceless. Therefore, we didn't bring them along. But rest assured, there are fields in the city, so there is plenty of food. Fu Lei nodded without saying much. This was a matter he was handling at Fang Hao's request. Whether or not they brought their villagers was not within the scope of his duties. He ordered some people to bring up 3 horses. All right, then, follow me. Live with us for a while, and once it's safe again, you can return. The 3 of them got on the horses. With a wave of Fu Lei's hand, the cavalry turned around and headed towards the fishing village. On the other side, Lis City, the city lord's mansion. Inside the room of City Lord Aubrey. Aubrey sat at the edge of his bed, drinking fruit wine to quench his thirst, while on the bed, a woman with white skin and golden hair lied, smiling seductively. Seeing Aubrey, who was sweating profusely, the woman laughed and teased. Aubrey, is that all you got? The woman shamelessly lay bare on the bed, her face still covered by a veil made of gold thread, adding a unique allure. Lady Adeline, I'm just a normal man. It's quite normal for me not to have your stamina. Aubrey, while wiping his sweat, said. Adeline, the new leader of the Faceless, commanding all the Faceless inside the city, seizing the political power of Lis City. HMPH, useless man. Adeline climbed off the bed and walked gracefully to the table, picked up a wine glass and took a sip, continuing to ask, Is everything ready for tomorrow's plan? Aubrey, greedily staring at the attractive body before him, said, Everything is ready. Tomorrow, the city defense army will be lured out of the city by a false report. The guards at the city lord's mansion will also be those I have arranged for. Not only will Rebecca die in an accident, but that kid named Fang Hao will also be gone. Then, whatever we say will stand. Aubrey spoke, his face growing more and more gloomy, as soon as Rebecca died. According to the proposal of the Human 100 Cities Federation, he could formally assume the authority of Lis City. At that time, he would be the true lord, and those who had made fun of him as a sponger in the past would face his revenge. Adeline's beautiful eyebrows frowned slightly, reminding him, according to the previous plan, this operation only involves Rebecca and those who support her. It doesn't include that lad Fang Hao. Aubrey nodded and said, I know. He wasn't part of the original plan. But since the kid is in the city and will attend this banquet, it would be convenient to take care of him now to prevent any chaos. Adeline's brow was still furrowed, fearing that dealing with Fang Hao, despite being a transmigrator, might be difficult due to his demonstrated strength. This could pose an unpredictable threat during this operation. However, Aubrey's point of view did make sense. If Rebecca died, Fang Hao would also cause trouble in the city. If he was removed at the same time, it would prevent a lot of subsequent problems. They could capture him alive and extract information about transmigrators from him. As the number one in the region, he should have lots of valuable information to share. Fair enough, but when he entered the city this time, he brought quite a few people, including the beast-eared hero, and possibly a lizardman who may be a hero too. We need to be prepared. If anything unexpected happens, the situation could escalate quickly. Adeline warned him seriously. This operation is a crucial step in their bid for the control of Liss City. They cannot afford any errors. All right, I will prepare for it. Once the boy enters the banquet hall, he won't be able to fly out even if he sprouts wings. Aubrey confidently responded. Hall. Good then, you are the best, said Adeline, breaking into a smile. Her delicate fingers gently brushed Aubrey's cheek. Aubrey, who was becoming dispirited, felt a spark of wickedness ignite in his heart. He fetched a medicine bottle from the drawer, poured out a pill and swallowed it. His eyes began to turn red, and he said to Adeline, I'm ready again. My lady. Adeline flashed a seductive smile, crawled back onto the bed and said, Go on, show me if you still have it in you. With this encouragement, Aubrey threw himself on her. The next day at noon, Fang Hao, accompanied by Demetrija and 50 Lionheart Knights, went to the temple to deal with the rat problem. Of course, since they were venturing into an unknown area, even though the drainage channels under Liss City were likely to be safe, Fang Hao was still apprehensive. It was not him personally who went to the temple, but his demon doll. The demon doll, naturally, did not appear in skeleton form, but used the demon mask and took the shape of Fang Hao. Even those who were familiar with Fang Hao couldn't tell the difference at a glance. Not only did the exterior appearance match, the actions and behavior were controlled by Fang Hao himself too. So, one could say that the two individuals were both Fang Hao. A total of 52 people arrived with tools at the back door of the temple. After briefly advising the assistant priest on guard, they went straight in through the back door. The entry of the demon doll into the temple did not draw any attention. But when Fang Hao used God's presence, he felt a hot burning sensation from his consciousness. Luckily, this burning sensation was still within Fang Hao's tolerance. They passed through the back door and directly arrived at the entrance to the underground passage. They then opened their bags, took out the nightstone lanterns and distributed them among a few people. Once all their preparations were done, they directly made their way downwards. The stairs to the sewer were narrow and gradually widened to accommodate 5 people walking side by side with plenty of space. Upon reaching the bottom, they found the space to be considerably wider than anticipated. The sewer was much larger than Fang Hao had imagined. The arched corridor was over 3 meters high, and the width on both sides was more than 5 meters. This canal was bigger than the hallways in the city lord's mansion. It seemed that Miriam was right. The underground world here was older than Liss City above. My lord, we need to be careful if the area is as broad as this, Demetrija cautioned. If it were just a small subterranean culvert, the enemy might indeed be rats. But this place was so vast and spread beneath the entire Liss City. Thus, it had enough room to accommodate large creatures. We should be careful. Our main goal this time is to gather useful information. We should try to avoid any conflict, and if there's a risk, we should retreat along the same route we came in. Fang Hao nodded and said, with the 50 Lionheart Knights and Demetrija, the Orange Hero, as long as they did not encounter a quasi-god, he had a chance to teleport them out to safety. Yes, my lord. The group answered in unison. They formed a 3-person abreast formation, keeping Fang Hao in the center and cautiously advancing forwards. The 2 sides were lined with smooth stones, and only the middle area was recessed for sewage to flow. Thus, the road was not difficult to navigate. Going forward through the corridor, various green fungi and moss had grown in the damp, dark corners, startling a variety of reptiles that scattered in all directions. The gentle light of the nightstone was enough to illuminate a large area ahead. The group kept the formation and continued to move forward. Everyone was holding their weapons, their minds highly concentrated, ready to deal with danger at any moment. They've been walking for over 10 minutes. Suddenly, the path ahead splits into multiple directions, ahead and to the left and right, with corridors all of the same design in 3 directions. For a moment, everyone was unsure about which direction to explore. It seemed that descending into a burrow to catch a rat wasn't an intelligent decision to begin with. Tweak. Just when everyone was hesitating, unsure of which path to take, a noise sounding like a rat squeak came from the left corridor. Shining the nightstone to the left, they saw a white-haired rat standing upright at the end of the corridor, looking in their direction. With the illumination from the nightstone, Fang Hao saw its Mediterranean hairstyle. The middle part of its head was completely bare, a comical sight. This type of rat was the same as the one they encountered in the cave before, who was carrying a nightstone and hurrying along. "Let's go, take the left path, and be careful," Fang Hao said. The group immediately began walking towards the left corridor. At the same time, the rat that had squeaked spun around and ran away. When Fang Hao and the others reached the spot where the rat had just been, Tweak, the rat was once again not far ahead, squeaking at them. "Let's go." Tweak. This was the 3rd time. Fang Hao and the others started feeling something was off. This rat seemed to always be waiting at a fork in the road for them, as if it intentionally guiding them. This made Fang Hao and the others even more suspicious of potential dangers ahead. After the rat had squeaked 3 or 4 times, they still stood on the spot, not moving forward. Tweak. The rat continued to squeak, its impatience making it hop up and down. "Let's go, see what the hell it's up to." Fang Hao decided to continue on. This time, the group didn't get lost but just followed the rat. They walked for over half an hour. Fang Hao had a good sense of direction. Several also caught references with a map in hand. He was fairly certain that they were now nearing the northern edge of the city. Continuing to follow the rat, they crossed through a round tunnel. Suddenly, a surprising scene appeared before them. On either side of the dried-up paddy fields were cleared farmlands. Even though they weren't vast, the plants in the field had already sprouted tender buds. On the other side, several gray rats were organizing utensils they'd stolen or picked up from humans. Bottles, cans, and even some discarded heels and forks. Each of these rats seemed to have its own role. This place was more like the miniature version of a human city, a small city established underground. Not just Fang Hao, everyone was surprised. Ordinary gray rats obviously did not possess the intelligence of the balding white-haired rats. Upon seeing Fang Hao and his group, they started to flee into the dim corridors. Tweak. Not far away, the Mediterranean rat that was their guide was still squeaking. Fang Hao followed it forward. After passing through another round tunnel, Fang Hao confirmed they had reached the end. Upon seeing the scene before him, Fang Hao's pupils suddenly contracted, even more surprised than when he saw the rat city outside. This place was a semi-elliptical plaza. In front of Fang Hao and the others were stands that looked like an audience area of a stadium, tier upon tier. Each seat was occupied by a white-haired rat, amounting to at least 10,000. These rats, similar in size to wild rats, had one unique characteristic. The middle of their heads were hairless, replaced with a translucent membrane which revealed a pulsating brain beneath. A Tier 1 cranial rat. He observed their name when he was close enough. Fang Hao had indeed a deep impression of this name. Cranial rat. So, these rats were the cranial rats. At this moment, tens of thousands of these cranial rats started to pulsate their brains in unison. The rat at the front suddenly spoke. "Welcome to the Grey Maze, human Fang Hao. Why are you here? What are you looking for? Or are you partaking in the troublesome treasure hunt that your kind seems to enjoy?" Shua shua shua. The human language spewing out of the cranial rat left the soldiers momentarily stunned. Then they all drew their weapons and took a fighting stance. The atmosphere within the vast hall immediately took a chilling turn. When the leading cranial rat spoke, all other cranial rats' brains, covered by the membrane, started to vibrate in unison. It seemed as if it wasn't just one rat speaking, but the entire group that was communicating simultaneously. Fang Hao was taken aback by the strange spectacle in front of him. It wasn't the right time to inquire about that, so he said. The temple said there had been some strange noises coming from down here, so I was sent to investigate any potential dangers. Fang Hao spun a lie. Apparently, the rats that Miriam had mentioned, the ones who had the habit of reading books, were these cranial rats. Oh, it might have been some wild ones who had sneaked up. We will rein them in. Such incidents won't happen anymore. The cranial rat continued in its thin, high-pitched voice. Fang Hao was equally surprised at this reply. The rats proved to have a strong ability for diplomacy. They had given an analysis based on Fang Hao's and his companions' background and demands and offered a peaceful resolution that both parties could accept. I'm satisfied with this answer. Fang Hao signaled his guards to withdraw their weapons. Then continued, I'm curious, how do you know my name is Fang Hao? The brains within the cranial rats started to quiver in unison again. In this city, we can see and hear everything, including you, human Fang Hao. Many people have mentioned you in secret, calling you a latent threat, the top one, and some even a dandy. The cranial rat quoted 3 descriptions of Fang Hao that people said behind his back. These comments came from 3 different types of people. Faceless ones, transmigrators, and some merchants who had lost business to him. The cranial rat didn't continue, hinting that there must be more interesting remarks about him. What you said is well known among many people outside, which doesn't mean you know everything about what's happening in the city, unless you can reveal something that even I. Before Fang Hao could finish, the cranial rat interrupted him. We know what you need. The faceless ones have a clear plan for you and Rebecca. But you, human, should understand that information has its value. It requires goods or information of equal value in exchange. The intelligence of these cranial rats was no less than that of a human, and, using their convenient location in the underground world, they seemed to have procured many secrets within the city. They not only knew about his alliance with Rebecca against the faceless ones, but also knew that the faceless ones had already laid a concrete plan for them. Suppressing his surprise, Fang Hao asked, So, Mr. Cranial Rats, what should I offer in exchange for this information? Or have you already determined your need? They could no longer be looked at as mere rats. A righteous exchange was a primary condition for any cooperation. Woo woo woo. The brains of the cranial rats under the membrane started to shake violently. Then the cranial rat spoke again. For ordinary information, we need materials, resources, and supplies to build an underground city. But this time, the information we will show you is very important to you. So we need something of equal value to your life. A thing of equal value to his life? Fang Hao was unclear about what it meant. The cranial rat probably wanted to stress the importance of this piece of information. Tell me, what do you need? We require means to survive. You, possessing a different mindset from the surface world humans, might offer some way to alter our current state. The cranial rat explained. Fang Hao frowned. What do you mean? We are weak, but when we gather, we can have the wisdom of a human. We have always been hiding in the underground world of this city, avoiding any conflicts or frictions with the surface humans, so as not to reduce our already small numbers. The cranial rat looked back at his companions, and it seemed that within a short period, they had reached some consensus. We need higher-grade test subjects, specifically from related species, to alter the genetic barrier within us. Genes? This was insane. The rats were now researching genes. Through his conversation with the cranial rat, Fang Hao gleaned some information. These cranial rats have created a world of their own beneath Lis City, employing their intelligence, which rivals that of humans. They manage and operate this underground world. The cranial rats have built a world for rats under Lis City, and they also use the complex labyrinth of underground tunnels to form a network connecting to the surface world. With their convenient living conditions, they can learn about anything happening in the surface world, regardless of whether you are a common peddler or a city lord or a noble living in this city. No deeds of yours will evade the watchful eyes and keen ears of these rats. Today, the cranial rat brought Fang Hao here specifically to exchange information with him. Information about the faceless targeting him and Rebecca. The condition for the information exchange are the gene barriers that the cranial rat mentioned. If the gene barrier was proposed by the goblins who have a complete energy system, Fang Hao would be slightly surprised, but would easily accept it. However, hearing about genes and barriers from the mouth of a rat in the sewers of Lis City feels unspeakably strange. Human, the conditions are equivalent. The information we know concerns your life. And what we need also concerns our future. Hence, the price for the exchange is reasonable. The cranial rat spoke up again. Fang Hao believes that these rats could get some news that they did not know about. However, he did not buy the idea that the plan of the Faceless endangered his life. It would be difficult for entities like the Faceless, given their capabilities, to target him, as he has 4 heroes by his side and 208th Order Lionheart Knights for protection. It's the same for Rebecca, who has the protection of the Lis City army. It is impossible for her to be in danger, even if he did not believe that his life was in any danger. Still, Fang Hao intends to make a successful first trade with the cranial rat in any possible way. The cranial rats have an information-gathering ability that they lacked, and a first contact also laid the groundwork for future cooperation. That's indeed reasonable, but I know little about gene stuff. Why don't you name a few specifics so that I can see if I can provide, or if I have something similar to substitute? Fang Hao said with a smile. Yet, he does not care much about the plan from the Faceless that the cranial rat has mentioned. The cranial rats discussed again, before speaking again, materials for gene research, alchemical potions, which improve special bloodlines or more advanced inheritances. It seems that the cranial rats have quite an understanding of the outside world. In Fang Hao's understanding of this world, there are 3 ways to obtain special powers. These are bloodline inheritance, divine gift, and self-improvement through acquired means. Transmigrators, who learn skills from books, simplify the difficulties in learning and breakthrough and have it easier than the natives. However, the natives, including the group of cranial rats before him, have to observe these 3 rules to break the status quo. Breaking down genes can be considered a way to change bloodlines by external forces. This may be due to the cranial rat's habit of reading books and obtaining knowledge from various sources. Still, while having the methods, obtaining the necessary materials remained a challenge. Hence their hope of exchanging necessary items with Fang Hao. Fang Hao did not immediately respond, considering what he could offer for exchange. He had money and perhaps could purchase bloodline improving potions from the trade alliance. However, such potions are likely rare, and it may take a long time to obtain them. This inevitably extends the timeline. Just when Fang Hao was about to reply and offer to buy the potions, Demetrija quietly reminded him, "My lord, there's a corpse of a demon rat hero within our territory." Right. Fang Hao's eyes lit up. Not long ago, during the demon rat migration mission, a corpse of a demon rat hero was left behind. Due to fears of the plague, Fang Hao had it sealed in a stone coffin and buried underground to later determine whether the corpse carried any virus after Nelson's return. The corpse was still buried outside the city. The corpse of this demon rat hero could be considered as research material, at Cranial Rat had mentioned. He could offer the corpse to the cranial rats if they needed it. However, it was the corpse of a purple hero, and extra charges were necessary for the trade. After confirming his decision, Fang Hao said, "I have the corpse of a demon rat hero. Not sure if this meets your needs." The brains of the cranial rats began to resonate collectively. Then the leading cranial rat said, "We are satisfied with your trade. The news we shall tell you." Right before the cranial rat could speak, Fang Hao interrupted again. "This is a whole purple hero's corpse. Its value definitely surpasses just one piece of information. So I'm demanding an addition to the trade conditions, in order to make this deal fair." Hearing that it was a purple hero, the cranial rats showed their true nature. They no longer communicated with the collective consciousness. Instead, the various rat individuals started making chittering noises, causing chaos all around. All the cranial rats were in disarray, and even the leading rat could no longer speak human language. It turned and began chittering loudly, calming the chaotic scene. The brains of the cranial rats reorganized a collective consciousness, allowing the leading cranial rat to speak once more. "The purple hero indeed has high value. Tell me, what should we add?" the cranial rat asked. Fang Hao pondered for a moment. His gaze kept moving towards the group of cranial rats in front of him. Yet there was already an idea in his mind. He said, "It's simple, just one request. Help me wipe out all the faceless in the city. If there are no more faceless in Lis City, we can consider this deal closed." No, you're asking too much of this deal. Besides, frequent contact with the surface will pose unavoidable risks to us. The cranial rat refused decisively. How is a reasonable exchange condition greedy? Fang Hao retorted. The Faceless is an organization. They will continue to expand their forces from time to time. If we agree to your request, we will have to provide information constantly, which is not an equivalent exchange. The cranial rat answered. How about cleaning out the current Faceless in the city? And if I need information later, exchange it with other items? Fang Hao continued. The cranial rat fell silent, weighing Fang Hao's words. Meanwhile, it was 5 in the afternoon on the surface. Fang Hao's real body was sitting in the hall, listening to Angia and the others chatting. A maid came in from outside the door. Master, a carriage from the Lord's mansion is here. They said to pick you up for Lord Aubrey's banquet. The maid said. A banquet? Upon hearing this, Angia's eyes lit up. Yes, there is indeed a banquet. You guys get ready, and then let's go together. Fang Hao said. In the room, except for a few maids, there were only Angia and Aseti. Both of them nodded, each returning to their rooms to prepare. Naturally, they couldn't show up at the banquet in full armor. In a short while, the 3 of them were ready and walked out together. Just then, Rolana also came out of her room, clearly having made herself up. Rolana, Lord Aubrey is holding a banquet. Would you like to come with us for a free meal? Fang Hao tactfully extended an invitation. Rolana glanced at Fang Hao and said indifferently, it wouldn't hurt to take a look. Loyalty of the beauty of a lonely night. Rolana and bias towards you increased by 5 points. Current loyalty is 50. Seeing the increase in loyalty, Fang Hao also smiled. Finally reached 50 points. It was so hard. Upon seeing Fang Hao suddenly starting to laugh, Rolana's cheeks turned red instantly. What are you laughing at? Nothing, I just thought of something interesting. Let's go. It's just the 4 of us in one carriage. It won't be too crowded. Fang Hao smiled and went out, boarding the carriage directly. Additionally, 20 Lionheart Knights protected the carriage and they all headed towards the Lord's mansion. There were many luxurious carriages parked outside the Lord's mansion. These carriages all belonged to the city's dignitaries. Such occasions often involved some competition for show. After Fang Hao and the others got off the carriage, their guards were taken to the waiting area. The 4 showed their invitations and entered the hall directly. The hall was filled with wealthy dignitaries of the city, all dressed in dazzling clothes talking in groups. But it was noticeable that most of the people here were women. Most of their gowns were made by Bone Textile Store. Even when passing by a few noble ladies talking, you could hear them discussing the latest designs, as well as the craftsmanship and fabric of the clothes. Fang Hao at this time, not far away, a chubby little boy was waving his arm and shouting. The group looked at the sound and saw the chubby merchant, Eric, approaching quickly. Eric walked quickly, his fat trembling slightly. Fang Hao, you're here too. Then, before Fang Hao could answer, he turned to look at Rolana and said with a somewhat flushed face, Miss Rolana, long time no see. Since missing the opportunity last time, Eric had been thinking about Rolana. Later, he had Fang Hao deliver a love poem to her. But like a stone dropped into the sea, he received no response. Seeing Fang Hao and Rolana entering together today, he immediately left the companions he was chatting with and walked over quickly. Rolana glanced curiously at Fang Hao as he greeted her, her eyes questioning. Seems like she didn't remember this chubby boy. Cough cough. This is Eric, the one who had me deliver a letter to you last time. Fang Hao gently reminded in a whisper. He didn't want to get involved in these matters, but since Eric had some friendship with him and was so persistent, he felt bad about refusing outright. But he was also afraid that Rolana would slaughter this fat boy in a fit of anger. That would really make a big scene. Rolana immediately remembered the identity of the chubby boy in front of her after reminiscing a bit. Her face showed no expression as she said coldly, You need to improve your writing skills. I'm not interested in you. Plus, being too fat can affect the taste of your blood. After saying this, she turned to Fang Hao and added, I'll go look around. You don't have to wait for me if I don't come back. Oh, Fang Hao nodded. Rolana left decisively, not giving Eric a chance to speak. It wasn't until Rolana had disappeared into the crowd that Eric suddenly came to his senses. Fang Hao, what did Miss Rolana mean by the taste of blood? Asked Eric, his face still flush. He recognized that he was being rejected, but the reasons given, blood and taste, were so vague he had no idea what they meant. Cough cough. Fang Hao cleared his throat and explained. Perhaps they mean you're too plump and need to lose a little weight. Don't take this too seriously. Some girls prefer slim guys, while others like them chubby and comfortable to touch. Really? So? I still have a chance? Eric was still not ready to give up. Eric, with your family's wealth, you shouldn't fixate on just her. I feel I still have a chance. We were getting along really well before. Eric responded. Fang Hao put an arm around Eric and whispered, let me tell you something. I heard that Rolana is taken. Really? Why would I lie to you? As they chatted, the group took their seats at the banquet. Not long after, Aubrey and Rebecca stepped out. As the organizer of the banquet, Aubrey took to the stage and began his opening speech. Although his words were familiar, it was apparent that Aubrey was more enthusiastic than usual today. Despite Rebecca's repeated reminders, he even discussed the city's situation without any restraint. As Aubrey droned on about uninteresting things, Fang Hao focused on the demon doll in the underworld instead and continued the unfinished negotiation with the cranial rat. Underground. After the final round of haggling, both parties had reached a preliminary agreement. Fang Hao would provide a heroic purple demon rat's corpse and open a secret market for the cranial rat, where they could purchase some daily necessities from him. In return, the cranial rat would reveal the Faceless One's plan against him and Rebecca, along with a list of known Faceless One members. If necessary, the rat would also provide information on the movements of the individuals on the list. However, any further intelligence would require additional payment based on the value of the information. Good. I will arrange for the demon rat's corpse to be delivered here in the next couple of days. By then, I hope you will have the information ready, said Fang Hao, controlling the demon doll. It was evident that the cranial rat was being very cautious in negotiating equal exchanges. To not jeopardize this opportunity to eliminate the Faceless Ones, Fang Hao decided to retrieve the intelligence when the rat's corpse was sent. Exchange money for goods on the spot. For their first cooperation, this seemed like a reliable and sincere method. No, that would result in the failure of our cooperation. The cranial rat suddenly voiced out. This statement left Fang Hao startled. How could it fail? The body is stored in my territory. Transporting it over will take at least a day. I'll notify you to pick it up or try to send it over, Fang Hao said. However, the cranial rat still shook its head. It explained, no. The Faceless Ones have already started. They have gathered all their members to usurp the Surface City's government tonight. You might be safe, but Rebecca will die, and the Faceless Ones will successfully seize control of the city. Fang Hao objected immediately. Rebecca is the city lord's wife. The Faceless Ones won't be able to get to her. No. What if the Faceless One is someone close to her, like, say, the organizer of a banquet? Upon hearing this, a chill ran through Fang Hao's heart. Inside the city lord's residence, the banquet continued unabated. All the nobles of the city gathered here, indulging in a feast of delectable food and sweet wine. Fang Hao, just as he was about to raise his wine glass for a sip, suddenly froze in place. His complexion turned a shade. Placing his wine glass back on the table, opening the storage space of the Book of Lords beneath the table, he pulled out 3 bottles of advanced antidote potion and handed them to Angia and Aseti. Both of them were seated next to Fang Hao, and were somewhat confused when they saw the antidote handed to them. However, upon noticing Fang Hao's stern expression, they immediately understood that something was amiss at this banquet. Someone had poisoned the drinks. Moreover, this poison required the use of the advanced antidote potion to neutralize it. It seemed a major event would be unfolding tonight. The trio kept their expressions unchanged. After quietly consuming the antidote, they remained seated without any sign of disturbance. Fang Hao looked towards the second floor. Aubrey and Rebecca were also eating. By Aubrey's side, a blonde maid poured wine for the two, and by Rebecca's side stood an armored guard. The guard wore standard armor used by the city lord's residence guards. Nothing unusual about it. However, the maid, despite her beauty, gave Fang Hao a sensation of familiarity as if he had seen her somewhere before. Nevertheless, Fang Hao's attention was swiftly captured by Aubrey, who seemed particularly excited today. Sitting back in his chair, Aubrey spoke animatedly with a smile stretched across his face. However, on the other hand, Rebecca's countenance became more and more gloomy, as if she were holding on to the edge of a precipice of fury. Simultaneously, Fang Hao noticed that the entrance to the hall was blocked by the guards, and anyone attempting to leave was stopped. Though there was no overt conflict, the space had become a lockdown from which no one could escape. It seemed that the intel from the cranial rat had been accurate. Aubrey really had set up a feast akin to a trap. Gathering all the nobles of the city, he planned to eliminate all those supporting Rebecca in one fell swoop. Afterward, he intended to seize the position of the ruler of Lis City. At this moment, the demon doll was leading people back in a hurry. What he needed to do was to ensure the safety of his people. His gaze swept over the hall, but he did not see Rolana anywhere. She must have gone to find Rebecca. Afterward, Fang Hao scrutinized the guard beside Rebecca more closely. The guard's height did seem similar. As Fang Hao looked around for an escape route, bang! The wine glass in Aubrey's hand lightly fell to the ground, as though a signal had been given. The corridors on either side of the party hall suddenly filled with a peculiar smell, quickly pervading the entire hall. All the dining guests in the hall fell unconscious one by one, slumping on the table. Fang Hao, Angia, and Aseti looked at each other and feigned unconsciousness by slumping onto the table. The aim was to see what these people were up to next. The erstwhile bustling banquet immediately plunged into silence. On the second floor, the voices of Aubrey and Rebecca transmitted clearly into Fang Hao's ears. Rebecca stood up in anger and roared, "Aubrey, you dare collude with the Faceless." Having reached this point, Rebecca's astute mind led her to guess that Aubrey had colluded with the Faceless. She had given Aubrey everything the man possessed. Never did she expect that Aubrey would involve himself with the Faceless. Toppling her seemed to hold no benefit for him. Neither had Rebecca nor the Faceless, prior to uncovering Aubrey's true identity, ever thought that this effeminate man would be a member of the Faceless. Why so agitated, Rebecca? It's not like you, said Aubrey, a smile on his face. Why did you do this? Rebecca roared in anger. No particular reason. I felt stifled under your command. I just wanted to live like a man. Aubrey replied indifferently. Huh. But Rebecca sneered. Aubrey, you are as hypocritical as ever. If your pride mattered to you, you wouldn't have been my fake husband, enjoying the wealth that I bestowed upon you and claiming to want to live like a man. Even you don't believe those words. Born into a destitute minor noble family, Aubrey was also burdened with massive gambling debts. At the same time, Rebecca was facing difficulties in her legitimate succession of Lis City. Their marriage was one of mutual usage. Rebecca needed a male counterpart to legitimately control Lis City. Meanwhile, Aubrey needed someone to help repay his gambling debts and even escape his poor lifestyle. Even though their marriage was a sham, Rebecca still provided Aubrey with a lifestyle akin to that of a city lord. Aubrey could even manage some of the affairs within the city. But he was not content with this arrangement. He believed he could have more. Listening to Rebecca's mockery, Aubrey remained undeterred. Over the years, the comments he had endured from outsiders were 100 times more vicious than Rebecca's words. He shrugged and said, "It doesn't matter anymore. Look around, who else is listening to your words? Your supporters are going to be buried along with you." All the nobles of the city were passed out downstairs, and no one would hear the conversation between them or let it leak. Rebecca was going to die during this banquet, and he had already chosen the murderer, a certain transmigrator named Fang Hao. Then, using this event as an excuse, Lis City would formally send troops to attack the nearby cities held by transmigrators. The entire plan was tightly linked together, step by step. The final victory belonged to the Faceless, and it also belonged to him. Aubrey, do you think by killing me, you'll get Lis City? You're just a waste of space, Rebecca continued. What does it matter if I'm a waste? Don't forget, according to the council's regulations, I am the city lord of Lis City, and you're merely the city lord's wife. You're lamenting middle-age widowhood. Do you think the councillors from other cities will care about this? Of course. I will hold a grand funeral for you and symbolically shed 2 drops of tears, Aubrey said nonchalantly. He had been waiting for this day for too long. Watching the first beauty of Lis City at a loss, he felt an indescribable pleasure in his heart. From now on, no one in Lis City would ridicule him. They would only loudly praise their great Lord Aubrey. Keep dreaming. Rebecca looked at the guards in the hall and yelled, "Guards, arrest Aubrey. He's in league with the Faceless." After her order, the hall remained silent. The guards on the first floor, they just stood there quietly. None of them moved to follow Rebecca's orders. "I forgot to tell you," Today is the guard's rotating shift day. Why do you think I chose to hold the banquet today? Aubrey hinted. Rebecca's face instantly turned pale and her body started swaying as she held onto the table in front of her. You plan to kill everyone in here? Rebecca looked straight at Aubrey. Only your supporters will die. Most people will still survive in a coma. By then, I'll announce that you were assassinated and unfortunately died. Oh right, I should thank you. Originally, your little lover wasn't part of my plan. But you added him in, which makes for an excellent scapegoat, Aubrey said, glancing at Fang Hao on the first floor. In the same vein, Fang Hao below also heard Aubrey's words. However, in his heart, he thought Aubrey was talking about Rolana, disguised as a man and constantly visiting Rebecca. It would be surprising if Aubrey didn't discover her. Release them. Once I'm dead, you will naturally secure your seat as City Lord. There's no need to kill them, Rebecca said through gritted teeth. Hell, do you think I am not aware of your abilities, Rebecca? Even if you die, these people will still be my obstruction. Therefore, they have to die with you, Aubrey said coldly. Rebecca's eyes flashed with cold light. She grabbed a dinner knife from the table and stabbed at Aubrey's neck. Aubrey's face turned pale, but he was unable to dodge. But at that moment, a maid beside them grabbed Rebecca's wrist. With a slight effort, the dinner knife in Rebecca's hand fell to the ground. Aubrey, when will you stop playing this game? The maid asked with a frown. Aubrey, sweaty and terrified from the last scene, hurriedly said, Lady Adeline, I entrust this to you. At the same time, he once again instructed the guards below. Proceed as planned, kill all of Rebecca's supporters, especially that black-haired guy, cut him into pieces. Pleasure. All the guards immediately took action. They walked towards the dining tables in the hall, planning to execute all of Rebecca's supporters. In the dining area, Angia lay on the table and whispered to Fang Hao, Hey, he wants to cut you into pieces. Must be a mistake. I've never offended him, barely even spoken to him. Fang Hao whispered back. He mentioned you as Rebecca's lover. Don't talk nonsense. He was referring to Rolana. It has nothing to do with me. What? Rolana? Angia's eyes widened. The two attracted the attention of the guards with their whispered conversation. A large group of guards surrounded Fang Hao and the others. Ah, braised lion's head, so delicious. Fang Hao murmured as if sleep-talking, while squinting at the situation around him. Just as he had assessed the situation, he saw an iron sword coming at him. Fang Hao dodged the attack and stopped pretending to be unconscious. He retrieved a weapon from his storage space and threw it to a settee, and himself gripped the Thunderhawk blade. Angia, who usually fights with her bare fists, didn't need a weapon either. The three of them suddenly coming to their senses made the guards subconsciously take 2 steps back and get into a defensive position. Fang Hao used this opportunity to conjure a thunderbolt javelin in his right hand and threw it at the window diagonally above him. Crack! Under the impact of the thunderbolt, the window shattered instantly. Without any hesitation, Fang Hao took out a flare from his storage space. He launched it towards the window above his head. The flare burst open in the sky above the city lord's residence, illuminating the surrounding sky with bright orange light. This smooth operation left everyone dumbfounded. Even if the people outside didn't know what was happening inside, the city soldiers, upon seeing the flare above the city lord's residence, would come over to offer their support. Seeing the flare explode above the city lord's residence, Aubrey's face instantly turned to one of fear. He shouted loudly, Quick, kill them or we'll all die. He couldn't understand why such a perfect plan had gone wrong. As long as anyone ate the food and smelled the sedating fragrance, even a hero unit would fall into a deep coma. So what was going on with these 3 people? But now wasn't the time to study this. If he couldn't kill Rebecca and these 3 before the city's forces arrived, not only would their entire plan fail, but he would also die here. Therefore, these people must die. Hearing Aubrey's shout, the surrounding guards also realized the seriousness of the situation. They drew their swords and charged towards the trio. Clang! 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 In an instant, the guards surrounded the 3 of them, engaging in fierce combat. Angia and Aseti shielded Fang Hao, protecting him. Fang Hao stood behind the 2, beginning to gather his spells. The wood samurai spirit, flame spider, multi-headed fire python. One after another, summoned beings appeared in front of the 3 of them. They forcibly blocked the charging guards, and under the fire attacks of the multi-headed fire python. Several guards were ignited by the flames, turning into charred corpses amidst their painful wails. This sudden burst of damage only slightly slowed the guards' attack. After assessing the situation, the guards resumed their assault. Fang Hao held the Thunderhawk blade in his hand, fighting in close quarters. The level 7 damage from the dark gold weapon made it as if it could cut through iron like mud. With a single swing, wherever it hit the enemy, it would break through their defense. Its lightning attributes would kill the enemy. Even a stout shield would leave a tragic scar on it. The lightning attribute of the attack would connect to the guards holding the shield, making their bodies start to convulse violently, being killed by Fang Hao's second sword. At the same time, the Starfire wand in his left hand continuously unleashed various spells, and launched them at the enemy. His proficiency in both magic and martial arts allowed Fang Hao's killing speed to match that of Asceti's, even faster than Angia's. At this moment, even without a ranking evaluation for transmigrators, one could assert that he possessed the strength of a hero. Second floor, the faceless Edeline engaged in battle with Rolana, who was dressed in guard's armor. Without any extra words, they attacked each other with all their might. Rolana continuously threw dark blood spears conjured in her hands towards the maid-clad person in front of her, as dense as bullets. At the same time, Edeline also exhibited amazing strength. Swiftly dodging, the blood spears exploded behind her. With a loud bang, a gap over 3 meters wide was blasted into the wall, dust flying everywhere. The color on Edeline's face also turned serious. In the intelligence of the faceless, there was no knowledge that such a powerful hero was by Rebecca's side. This did not allow for any relaxation. She swung her right hand, and countless rusty chains sprung out from thin air. Like serpents crisscrossing and glinting with cold light, the hooks flew towards Rolana. Rolana's long sword was enveloped by a red glow. She swung her sword in close combat, and a glow like a blooming blood moon slashed towards the chain. Boom! The two collided, an explosion of airwaves. The entire second-floor platform instantly collapsed, falling from the air, the rubble burying the unconscious guests below. The two of them simultaneously spread their massive wings. In the air of the hall, the battle continued. Similar to Rolana's bat wings, Edeline's wings also resembled bat wings. However, the dark brown wings were covered with small spikes, and the ends were tattered as if stitched together from chunks of skin. The two women continued their fierce battle overhead. Blast after blast of energy waves, all the glass shattered, and rubble from the walls kept falling from the air. Many people were killed in their sleep as a result of the two women's battle. Rolana looked at her iron sword, which had become jagged, and threw it down. She had only been worried about faceless assassins at the banquet attacking Rebecca, and donned her armor to act as a bodyguard for close protection. Little did she realize, the whole banquet itself was a trap to kill Rebecca. She was even more surprised that there was someone in the enemy ranks who could fight her up to now. Rolana, here's a sword. Take it and fight her outside. From below, Fang Hao's voice came. At the same time, a Valkyrie fine iron longsword was thrown up in a spiral. Rolana grabbed the long sword, and dark energy surged around her. Countless red blood spears flew towards Edeline from all directions, forcing her to fly upwards. The two of them broke through the ceiling, one after the other, flapping their wings, flew into the sky. Intense battles were taking place both in the sky and inside the city lord's mansion. However, in the corridor on the second floor, Aubrey, clutching a dagger, glared intently at Rebecca, who was in front of him. He kept muttering to himself, I still have a chance, yes? Yes. As long as you die, as long as you die, I will be the city lord. It's me who should be the city lord. His eyes revealed a fierce madness. Aubrey tightly gripped the dagger. His gaze was deadlocked on Rebecca in front of him. They had been preparing for today's plan for a long time. The shift of the city lord's mansion guards, the tasks of the city defense army. He had made preparations for everything. Everything was following the process he had designed. Everyone was unconscious. Adeline killed Rebecca, and the guards on the first floor dealt with Rebecca's supporters. It was such a simple task. However, the seemingly comprehensive plan fell apart at the last step. Not only did Fang Hao's group of 3 not fall unconscious, they also demonstrated strong combat abilities, stopping all the guards on the first floor. Not only that, the guard following Rebecca utilized an astonishing amount of strength. Adeline unfurled giant wings just like him, and the two fought from the ground all the way up to the sky, disappearing from sight. Handling Rebecca himself was the only option left now. He had to kill Rebecca before the city defense army arrived. As long as you die, as long as you die. I can blame everything on Fang Hao and his group. I am the city lord. The army will definitely listen to me. They definitely will. Aubrey's voice was raspy and nearly to the point of roaring. As long as he killed Rebecca, even if the army saw the signal flare and arrived, he could frame the murder on Fang Hao and his outsiders. With his notorious reputation as a freeloader, no one would believe he had the courage to kill Rebecca. The plan will still succeed when that time comes. Aubrey looked as though he was manic, his thin face growing increasingly ferocious. Once he had made up his mind, he tightly clutched the dagger in his hand, slowly inching closer. On the other side, Rebecca slowly retreated step by step. She was wearing a dress designed by Fang Hao for today's banquet. It was a form-fitting design, meaning she had trouble performing any combat moves and had nowhere to hide weapons. Aubrey, you're only in charge of the military affairs. You're nothing more than a useless freeloader who knows nothing except eating and drinking. Without others, you will only die faster. Rebecca's voice was cold, her eyes deadlocked on her opponent as she slowly retreated. Indeed, she was in control of the city's army, but her abilities were only average. Her own abilities were just average too. She hadn't participated in a direct combat since she took this position. She wasn't sure whether she could defeat Aubrey or not, but she couldn't show weakness. Otherwise, Aubrey would only become more brazen. Hearing Rebecca's words, Aubrey paused momentarily, then lunged at Rebecca with his dagger. Rebecca, don't blame me. I can only survive if you die. Rebecca's countenance changed dramatically as she prepared to defend herself. The distance between them quickly closed. Once close enough, Aubrey's dagger lunged forward. Rebecca dodged just in time, but not completely. The dagger grazed her side, inflicting a wound, although it didn't stab her directly. Aubrey's forward momentum was enough to send Rebecca flying. The platform of the second floor had already collapsed during the fight. Rebecca's body flew backward, falling toward the first floor lobby from the second floor. At this height, with Rebecca's physical condition, if she didn't die, she would be gravely injured for sure. As her body was rapidly descending, her mind went blank, looking at Aubrey up above, with a face full of joy and relief. She felt somewhat desperate. Just when Rebecca thought she was going to fall to her death, a howling wind rushed past her ear. A gust of wind from underneath lifted her up, slowing her descent. Simultaneously, several tendrils extended from the air. They coiled around her ankle and waist, pulling her towards a corner. By the time she realized what happened, she had already been brought to Fang Hao's side. After the tendrils loosened, she landed directly on the ground. The battle on the first floor was far more intense than she had imagined. The unconscious people hadn't woken up yet, but the area where Fang Hao was standing was already piled up with dead bodies. Blood flowed like a river. The entire space was filled with the stench of blood. "Are you okay?" asked Fang Hao as the electric light of Thunderbolt flashed in his hand. He repelled the rebel soldiers in front of him with a swift sword swing. "I'm fine, the reinforcements will arrive soon," answered Rebecca. At this point, she had no time to care about her image. Tearing off a piece of fabric from her skirt, she gritted her teeth and used it to bandage her wound. "I hope so." Without saying more, Fang Hao took out a sword from his storage space and threw it in front of her. Rebecca didn't say anything. She directly picked up the sword from the ground. Even though she couldn't match Fang Hao and his group's strength, having a weapon in hand could guarantee some level of self-protection. Aubrey stood on the second floor, watching as Rebecca, who had fallen from the second floor, was saved by Fang Hao and his group. He bellowed loudly, "Quick, kill Rebecca, or we'll all die." Aubrey's roar echoed through the hall. Fang Hao looked up, formed a thunderbolt javelin in his hand and hurled it towards Aubrey. Boom! There was a loud explosion. Although it didn't hit Aubrey, the explosion had blown him away. He sat weakly in the corner, completely powerless. At this moment, loud sounds of fighting could be heard from outside the city lord's mansion. The city defense army and the guards of the city lord's mansion started to fight each other. Both parties wore less city's armor, but they were fighting each other. In the dim night, the scene was incredibly chaotic. As they fought, they even couldn't distinguish who were the rebels and who were their own men. The scene was a total chaos. The battle outside lasted for half an hour. The sealed gate was hit with continuous pounding. As the main gate was breached, Troops of soldiers clad in armor swiftly charged in. A commander wearing the Temple Guardian armor advanced, with purpose to the front. Haber Purple, Level 2. Upon his entry, Fang Hao took note of his name and rank. Unexpectedly, there was another Level 2 purple rank commander in Lis City. Moreover, the temple armor that Fang Hao sent was given to this person, Rebecca. A purple rank amongst heroes marked a high-level character, akin to a leader within a faction. It looked like the commander in charge of Lis City was this Haber. Haber looked at the blood-stained hall, his face unusually grim. It was only when he saw Rebecca, still alive amidst the blood, that his expression slightly softened. Taking brisk steps forward, he spoke, "Miss Rebecca, we saw the flare shot from here." Rebecca threw down her longsword, wiped the blood off her face and coldly ordered, "Aubrey conspired with the Faceless. Arrest him and seize all the established families supported by him for investigation." "Yes," Haber nodded, giving orders to his soldiers. The soldiers quickly split up to carry out the command. At the same time, a small team started to pursue Aubrey. Aubrey had suffered considerable injury from Fang Hao's lightning strike. Catching up with him would only be a matter of time. He wouldn't get far. "Miss Rebecca, let's go. I will escort you to a safe place." Haber stepped forward, offering to guard Rebecca. Fang Hao carefully inspected Haber, his eyes showing a hint of mistrust. It wasn't because he knew Haber beforehand. It was just that since Aubrey could be a Faceless, he was not sure whether this commander in front of him was a second layer of protection set up by the Faceless. Before Rebecca could respond, Fang Hao said, "We're staying here. Surround the area and call for the temple to aid the unconscious." His commanding tone, still unsettled from the recent battle, made the eyebrows of the city's armed forces furrow. Haber's expression mirrored their own, turning his questioning gaze towards Rebecca. Rebecca glanced at Fang Hao and nodded. "Do as he says." "Yes, miss." Without hesitation, Haber began arranging according to Fang Hao's orders. The whole city lord's mansion was enveloped by layer upon layer of guards, and half an hour later, the secondary priests of the temple arrived to rescue the still unconscious nobles. Above the city lord's mansion, in the midst of the night, two females with massive wings were engaged in fierce combat. Magical energies crisscrossed between them. Their weapons clashed, and surges of power exploded like thunderbolts in the night. Rolana, after spreading her enormous bat wings, red pupils glowed and a bloody aura surrounded her. Adeline/Emily the Faceless was even more terrifying in appearance. Her skin was stripped, revealing deep red flesh. Huge demon wings sprouted from her back, and chains rusted over time coiled around her body. Her image was not of a human, but more like a demon emerging from hell. "Blood Clan, you actually serve a human? How surprising." Adeline's voice was strange, like something beyond human capacity. After evading Rolana's long-ranged attack, she taunted with a cold voice. Under the moonlight, Rolana maintained a steady stream of energy for her fight against Adeline. Adeline was forced into a state of offering her own flesh as a sacrifice to tap into her power. "HMPH, you ugly creature," Rolana snorted. In the blink of an eye, she was gone, appearing beside Adeline. The long sword in her hand accumulated a rich, dark energy, slicing towards Adeline like a crimson moon. Adeline's face fell. Her chains instantly blocked her front. Boom! As the two collided, Adeline plummeted down as if being hit by a missile. Crash! She destroyed houses below along her descent, landing in an exceptionally miserable manner. Adeline stood up among the ruins. Her longsword wound on her chest spurted out worm-like flesh tendrils. The tendrils twisted around each other, and in a flash, the wound was as good as new. Not even a scar was left. After recovering from her injuries, Adeline pushed herself off the ground, and again whizzed into the sky. The chains from her body shot out once more, locking into brutal combat with Rolana. Suddenly, a golden light streaked through the night sky. Fang Hao, manipulating the demon doll, arrived to lend his support. Having discerned the identities of the two from afar, he instantly cast a heal. The demon doll, fashioned from the bones of a church priest, possessed abilities derived exclusively from the Church of Light spells. Light Scholar and Chosen of the Light. Both passive skills were solely products of light magic. Then came the heal skill. It could heal the wounds of living creatures. However, if the target was the undead or demon soldiers, it would deal damage instead. The healing spell descended straight onto Adeline's head. Taken off guard, Adeline didn't have the time to evade. Sizzling sound. Ah! It was just a regular healing spell. Adeline's face twisted agonizingly. Her body began to uncontrollably stiffen. Puff! By no means missing this opportunity, Rolana swung her sword, slashing it across Adeline's neck. Viscous blood appeared but didn't drop. Once again, flesh worms crawled out at the wound site, restoring it, with Rolana hot on her heels. Brandishing her iron sword time and time again, Adeline countered with chains of her own. As Fang Hao approached, he also took note of the enemy's characteristics. God Renouncer Adeline Orange Level 7. Adeline. Fang Hao felt this name was very familiar but completely unable to recall the past encounters. But one thing was certain. Adeline did have formidable strength. Otherwise, with his orange level hero strength, he wouldn't have held out this long against Rolana of dark gold level. And that too under the enhancement of the night moonlight. If it weren't for the attempt to frame Rebecca, Rolana could have ended it quicker with a direct assault. The fight between the two women continued. With perfect timing, Fang Hao released another heal spell. Adeline screamed in pain as Rolana struck her with several sword chops. After several slashes, flesh worms emerged to repair the wounds again. But the speed of the flesh worm regeneration significantly slowed down. Seeing this, Fang Hao and Rolana felt a glimmer of hope for killing the enemy. Cautiously eyeing both, Adeline deemed it time to retreat. With the failure of the original plan, hanging around would only result in her death, making her another casualty in Aubrey's cause. Additionally, she needed to relay Lis City's situation back to the headquarters of the Faceless. By then, the headquarters would assign someone to deal with Fang Hao, and she wouldn't need to lift a finger. With this in mind, Adeline turned to flee. But would Fang Hao and Rolana let her get away so easily? While Rolana ferociously kept Adeline tangled, Fang Hao used light magic spells to further drain her energy. When Adeline's body resembled charred coal, the flesh worms could no longer repair the wounds on her body. All of a sudden, the moonlight above turned dark red. Rolana's silhouette vanished, only to appear behind Adeline within a matter of seconds. With one hand, she caught the chains lunging towards her. The other grabbed Adeline's skull. You can die now, Rolana declared. Next, violent energy converged in Rolana's palm, akin to a rampant storm ripping through Adeline's skull. Adeline's already grotesque face grew even more terrifying, emitting roars like those from the depths of purgatory. The shrill screams echoed in the city night sky. Bang! At the next moment, Adeline's head burst apart. Blood and flesh fragments rained down from the sky. Flesh worms tried to mend the wound once more. After two of Fang Hao's light magic spells, Adeline's body fell from the sky, a charred mass. Upon hitting the ground, her body shattered like scattered ashes. After the battle, Rolana curiously looked at Fang Hao in front of her. It was her first time seeing a demon doll. It had the same appearance and features as Fang Hao, but with a pair of massive bat wings. This is my substitute. I'll explain it to you when we get the chance. Rebecca is already safe. You'd better think of a reason to explain your wings, said Fang Hao. Yes, I know, Rolana replied, then flew down. At the same time, Fang Hao, controlling the demon doll, flew off into the distance, disappearing into the night sky. Compared to Rolana, Fang Hao was not worried about himself. After all, he was still in the city lord's mansion hall with Rebecca. Who would consider that he was controlling a duplicate to fight for him? Thus, there was no need for much explanation. On the contrary, Rolana had shown such strength in protecting Rebecca. Added to the recent battle, if someone were to investigate, it would indeed be hard to explain. It was already dawn. After ensuring safety, Fang Hao took the initiative to leave. He bid Rebecca farewell, then took Angia and Aseti back to their residence. There were still large forces circulating in the streets, arresting anyone connected with recent events. The moment Fang Hao entered his room, he restored the demon doll. He looked out of the window at the deserted street. Even though the ordinary citizens didn't know what had happened, they could still feel a sense of desolation permeating the city. At this time normally, there would already be people leaving for work, but the streets were still empty now. Leaning against the windowsill, Fang Hao reminisced about the events of last night. He had been too careless. If he hadn't gotten a heads up about Aubrey's plan from the cranial rat, he would have been in danger himself. If he, indeed, had fallen into a stupor, Aubrey would really have taken him out. The plan of Aubrey had been flawless. He could eliminate Rebecca and pin the blame on Fang Hao. Most importantly, it involved all the nobles in the city, all in attendance as if they were equally guilty. By that time, if the Federation Conference were to investigate, these people wouldn't dare speak out for fear of implicating themselves. Thus, he thought, the cranial rat had appeared in the temple under public gaze, and then the temple had assigned Fang Hao the task of rat extermination. The cranial rat had provided him information. The careful plan step by step made him wonder if the cranial rat had already known how to counter his strategy. Otherwise, everything just seemed too convenient. If all of these were meticulously calculated by the cranial rat intending to contact him through this scheme, the wisdom of the cranial rat was more profound than what he had imagined and more refined. Of course, he had not forgotten his promised token of exchange with the cranial rat, the body of the purple demon rat hero. When the time comes, he would ask for it to be delivered and then hand it over to the cranial rat. After a thought, Fang Hao opened the door and told Winnie, who was about to go to work, "Madam, let everyone know not to work today. The converted restaurant and fabric shop should remain closed too. Everyone should rest for a few days." Winnie paused and looked back with curiosity but did not say much. "All right, I understand. Tell everyone not to go out. The city has been in a bit of chaos recently," Fang Hao continued. "Yes, I understand." Having settled his instructions with the maid, Fang Hao went back to bed. At 3 in the afternoon, Fang Hao woke up and after a quick meal, headed out with several heroes from Lis City. In a secluded cave outside the city, he met up with the rockhead who had come to deliver goods. "Lord, I have brought you the corpse," said the rockhead. In the cave, there was a body wrapped in linen, lying straight on the ground like a mummy. The corpse was that of the purple demon rat hero. Nelson had left and done a simple processing on this corpse, removing all kinds of curses and viruses from it. The linen shroud helped in preserving the body for a longer period. "Good, you've worked hard," Fang Hao said, then casually put the corpse into his storage space. In the space, you couldn't store troops, but corpses could be stored. "Lord, if there is nothing else, I will be on my way," the rockhead said. "Okay, you can go." The rockhead nodded, mounted the bone dragon, and left, having received what he needed. Fang Hao returned to his residence. After a brief rest, he set out again with several heroes and the Lionheart Knight, continuing to use the excuse of exterminating rats to enter the backyard of the temple. At the entrance, Fang Hao had the demon doll and the corpse of the demon rat. He used the doll to take the corpse underground. Accustomed to his surroundings, he quickly arrived in the cranial rat space. A group of cranial rats had been waiting for him. "I'm back and have brought the corpse of the demon rat as I promised." Fang Hao threw the body onto the ground, uncovered a corner of the linen, and exposed the skull of the demon rat. The equipment of the demon rat had been stripped, leaving only the linen that wrapped the body. "I'm glad to see you again, Fang Hao. You have kept our promise," said the cranial rat with a sharp voice. "That's nothing. I've brought the corpse. Can you give me the list of faceless ones that you promised?" Fang Hao continued. The agreement between them had been met. Fang Hao had delivered the body of the demon rat hero. The cranial rat, besides providing Aubrey's plan last night, also had to give Fang Hao a list of faceless ones, helping him eliminate the known faceless ones in Lis City. If Fang Hao wanted to continue receiving information in the future, he would need to pay additional rewards. The same goes for the cranial rats. If they wanted to get supplies or help from Fang Hao, they would need to provide equivalent information or resources as compensation. "We are naturally prepared," said one of the cranial rats. Another cranial rat next to it delivered a yellowed piece of paper filled with densely written names. "So many?" Fang Hao did a rough count and figured there were at least over 40 people. Little Yu told him that only about 5 or 6 people attended the Faceless Ones meetings, while the list provided by the cranial rats was several times that number. "We are aware of everything in the surface world. We have countless eyes that observe everything from every dark, narrow corner. What you've heard may not be as real as what we've witnessed," the cranial rat told him. "All right, I believe you guys," said Fang Hao, tucking the list into his robe. The Faceless Ones can call on people from various domains, clearly indicating there were far more people than Little Yu had seen. The authenticity of the list provided by the cranial rat was, to some extent, higher. The underground world doesn't place as much emphasis on connections and power as the surface world does. After tucking away the list, Fang Hao immediately thought of a question. Lei Lai on the list has run away. I need his location. Sure, but it requires an exchange. The cranial rat explained. Fang Hao took out a bead and placed it on the ground, rolling it towards the cranial rat's feet. Polluted blood. Type, blood. Description. The blood carries the secret gene modifications of the demon rat species. This was an item dropped upon killing a demon rat. He had gathered tens of thousands of these. Only after promising to use the demon rat corpses did Fang Hao realize these beads could probably be of use to the cranial rats within the area channel. Those lords who completed the task of relocating the demon rats were also selling this polluted blood. No one knew its specific use. The price was therefore set according to rare materials. Each bead of demon rat's polluted blood for 10 pieces of information. Fang Hao said. The cranial rat picked up the bead that rolled towards it and sniffed it. Then it turned its head and nodded to the back. Being a rat, it had a keen sense of smell and could detect the smell of the blood concealed in the bead, confirming that it was indeed demon rat's blood. 10 is too many. We can consider each bead as 3 pieces of information, responded the cranial rat, clenching the bead in its short forelimbs. All right, Fang Hao nodded. The bargaining for 10 pieces of information was just a tactic to increase the number of information tidbits. Hadn't expected it to really succeed anyway. The cranial rat handed the bead to the rat on the side, turned its gaze to Fang Hao again and asked. So, what information do you need? The location of Lei Lai, a weapon blueprint named Swords of Absolution, and a blonde woman named Adeline. I need this trio of information. If you manage to get a hold of some special blueprints and rare materials, I can also exchange these beads for them. Continued Fang Hao. Fang Hao, we've noted down your demands. Lei Lai is located in the basement of a deserted warehouse in East City. As for the other 2 pieces of information, we'll send them to your residence once we get them, said the cranial rat, extending its clawed hand. The deserted warehouse in East City. Fang Hao memorized the location in his heart. Which warehouse in East City? There are quite a few of them, and it would be really troublesome to search them all, persisted Fang Hao. Indeed, there was a group of abandoned warehouses in East City. It used to be an industrial area of the city, but was then deserted due to city expansion. Some of the warehouses were used to store miscellaneous items, while many others had been deserted for a long time and rarely visited by anyone. If Lei Lai was hiding there, it was indeed a good spot away from the public sight. From west to east, the 5th warehouse, the cranial rat informed. All right, our cooperation was pleasant. I won't disturb you guys anymore, said Fang Hao, preparing to turn around and leave. But the cranial rat stopped him again and said directly, Wait, you mentioned earlier that you need blueprints. We have one here, for 5 beads. Fang Hao, who was about to leave, stopped his steps and curiously looked again at the group of cranial rats in the center of the hall. Blueprints in the hands of rats? It can't be a blueprint for something like a rat nest, can it? If it is, could I perhaps set up an underground intelligence organization of my own? Walking back to his original spot, he spoke to the cranial rats. A trade is possible, but the amount of pearls that can be exchanged will depend on the level and function of the blueprint. Some things may be useful to you, but they may not necessarily have equivalent value to us humans. Please wait, Fang Hao, human. Fang Hao sat down on an old wooden box nearby, waiting for them to bring the blueprints. Soon, a cranial rat returned, carrying a sheet of blueprint in its hand. Diversion type underground pipeline construction blueprint purple grade. Diversion type underground pipelines. Category, special buildings. Description, the setting of an underground diversion type drainage system, with independent sewer and rainwater drainage systems that collect and drain sewage and rainwater separately. The blueprint brought by the cranial rat was not for some rat nest, but for an underground drainage system. It was now autumn, and rainy days were becoming more frequent. At this time, a complete drainage system was indeed needed by Fang Hao for future city development and expansion. So this blueprint was indeed very valuable to him. Good, I will take this blueprint. It costs 5 pearls, which I didn't bring with me. I'll give them to you when I get back, Fang Hao said. That's fine. When you get back, just ring this bell and we will come to collect the pearls. Our future trade will also be conducted in this way, replied the cranial rat, and then it handed over a small bell. The bell was only the size of a thumb. The exterior was made of metal, but the clapper seemed to be made of bone. Good, for the time being we'll leave it at that. After I go back, I'll give you the pearls. Fang Hao put the bell away and instructed. For the next while, try to appear less at the temple during the day. The cranial rat nodded, signifying it understood. Fang Hao didn't linger and turned to head back the way he came. He discreetly put away the demon doll at the entrance to the temple's backyard and planned to leave with everyone. Just as they were leaving, he saw the priestess Miriam coming towards him. Mr. Fang Hao, how was the rat problem coming along? Miriam asked, leaning on her cane and walking over to Fang Hao. It's progressing nicely. We've cleaned out most of the rats underground. But the underground pipe system is too extensive to be able to kill them all off. However, they probably won't dare to come to the surface to steal anymore. Fang Hao replied. That's good to hear. As long as these little things don't come up to cause trouble, Miriam said softly. And then her voice changed as she continued. I heard there was a major incident at the city lord's mansion last night while I was not in town. It looked like Miriam had come mainly to inquire about what happened last night. Miriam and her half-demon son lived outside the city. She only heard about what happened last night this morning. As a guest at last night's banquet, Fang Hao naturally knew more than she did. Although Miriam did not care about the politics of the city, it did not mean that she didn't want to know anything at all. Keeping abreast of developments in the city was also a concern for the priestess of the temple. After pondering for a moment, Fang Hao said, last night, the city lord Aubrey collaborated with the Faceless Ones to carry out an assassination attempt on Lady Rebecca. Luckily, the guards by her side were skilled and repelled the Faceless Ones, and no danger ensued. What happened yesterday in the banquet hall was known by the city's elites, who were all revived afterwards. Even if the news hadn't gotten out yet, everyone in the city would know in a couple of days. Since Miriam asked, it seemed better to simply tell her. When she heard that Aubrey had dared to attempt to assassinate Rebecca, Miriam could not hide her disbelief. If it were not for the fact that this really happened yesterday, she might not even believe Fang Hao. Then what about Aubrey? Miriam continued to ask. He has probably been arrested. The city will be in chaos over the next few days, so it's best not to have people from the temple wandering around. Fang Hao replied as he and his party reached the back door. After saying goodbye to Miriam, he returned to his own residence. He returns to his room. Fang Hao prepares 5 beads of filthy blood. He takes out the bone bell and gives it a light shake. The sound of the bone bell is not crisp and clear. It's more like a wooden mallet hitting a metal plate, a dull thud. And Fang Hao wonders if such a sound can attract the cranial rats. Perhaps it would be more effective to shake it near a sewer. Just as Fang Hao was contemplating whether to go out, a scratching sound is heard from outside the room. Opening the door, he sees 5 cranial rats. They're sitting straight up, their large eyes staring at Fang Hao. When a single cranial rat exists, its intelligence is similar to an ordinary rat. But when 5 gather together and their brains resonate, they possess a certain level of intelligence. Just that they cannot achieve the level of intelligence to speak and bargain with humans in the underground world. These are 5 beads. Give me the blueprint. Fang Hao bends down, picks up the blueprint held by the cranial rats, and places the 5 beads in the arms of the 5 cranial rats. 1 bead per rat. The cranial rats hold the beads tightly within their small forelimbs. After receiving the beads, the 5 cranial rats turn around and leave. Curious about where they came from, Fang Hao keeps watching them as they leave. He sees the 5 cranial rats carefully follow the wall to the courtyard, then directly burrow into the sewer. The city's underground system connects the entire city, forming a special passageway for the rats. They really did come from the sewer. After completing the trade, Fang Hao promptly stores the blueprint. The blueprint turns into a light and merges into the Book of Lords at his waist. Level 1 City Diversion Underground Pipeline. Wood 1,200, stone 2,200, iron 500, cast iron 320, metal parts 120. Level 2 City Diversion Underground Pipeline. Wood 2,000, stone 3,500, iron 780, cast iron 500, metal parts 250. Level 3 City. Level 10 City Diversion Underground Pipeline. High quality wood 27,500, stone bricks 58,200. Fine stone bricks 34,700, cast iron 7,500, white steel ingots 3,750, metal parts 1,570, white steel parts 850. Description: establish a diversionary drainage pipeline underground. It has two independent drainage systems for sewage and rainwater, collecting and draining sewage and rainwater respectively. The construction materials for the underground pipeline are quite different from the previous buildings. The amount of materials required depends on the city level. In other words, the higher the city level, the more materials are needed to build the underground pipeline, and the higher the required material grade. This point actually makes sense and is not hard to understand. Once he returns, Fang Hao can directly start construction in the city where he resides. At the same time, he opens the Book of Lords and shares this blueprint with the few lords under his charge, instructing them to construct all their underground pipelines as well, preparing for the autumn rainy season. All right, boss, I'll start building right away. Received, Brother Hao. Dong Jiayu and the others, in turn, send back messages. Ever since joining Fang Hao's subordinates' territory, they basically no longer have to worry about blueprint construction problems. Fang Hao periodically shares blueprints usable by human cities, and they proceed to construct them. Simply put, by being attached to Fang Hao, their development speed has been improved. Before he realized it, it was already late. When it reached 11 p.m., the darkness outside the window deepened. Due to the recent unrest in the city, the taprooms and evening entertainment venues had closed down. The entire city was completely engulfed by darkness. Falling into silence, Fang Hao releases the demon doll, brings Demetrija and Little Yu, along with 100 Lionheart Knights. He comes out of his dwelling place. Taking advantage of the night, he quickly heads towards the warehouse in the East City. The mission this time is to find Lei Lai. Now Lei Lai, like a dog that had lost its home, was hiding in a dark basement of a warehouse. Without his henchmen and the powerful backing him, Lei Lai is like a toothless tiger. He has lost all his lethality. Since Fang Hao already knows his location, he naturally won't let him go. Calculating the timing of the city's patrol guards, his party quickly weaves their way through the streets. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the abandoned warehouse in the East City. Using the moonlight to view the fifth warehouse from a distance, they could spot two people on guard in the dark. Little Yu, kill all the guards. Fang Hao commands quietly. No one is certain if there is an escape route in the basement. Therefore, the hidden lookouts need to be taken care of in advance. Yes, master. Once Little Yu acknowledges, her figure disappears into the night. A blurry shadow is seen rushing towards the warehouse from the darkness. A lookout at the corner of the wall leans against the wall, yawning, muttering to himself about getting stuck with such a crappy job, having to keep watch late into the night. At that moment, a cold dagger is pressed against his neck from behind. Before he can react, a hand covers his mouth as the dagger slices open his throat. He struggles as he is pulled into the darkness. The same scene soon occurs to the second lookout, under the watchful eyes of Fang Hao and his party. The two men have their throats swiftly slit. Storm in. If he's alive, bring him back. If he's dead, bring his body. Lei Lai cannot leave this place tonight. Fang Hao commands resolutely. Yes, master, comes the reply. Whoosh! The Lionheart Knights rise to their feet, weapons in hand, and quickly rush towards the target warehouse. Not long after, a fierce fight erupts within the warehouse, and bursts of shouting. This time, the operation led by Demetrija to kill Lei Lai and others was without any difficulty. Bang! Soon, a muscular man covered in blood bursts through the window. Without a closer look, he was immediately recognized as Lei Lai. However, as soon as Lei Lai appeared, he was pierced from behind by a slender sword, his body pinned to the wall. Demetrija came out of the warehouse, pulling his long sword from Lei Lai's body. Lei Lai slumped in the corner, continuously vomiting blood. It didn't seem like he would last much longer. The battle, from beginning to end, didn't last more than 10 minutes. This place was remote, and the sounds of the fight didn't attract nearby guards. Lei Lai saw Fang Hao coming out from the shadows. His drooping eyes widened instantly. Spitting blood, he roared, Fang Hao, it's you. Why are you killing me? The fight happened so quickly that all he saw were large swaths of golden armored soldiers who killed upon sight. He didn't have a clear view of the situation. He initially thought Rebecca's men had come, but he didn't expect Fang Hao to come out from the shadows. If it wasn't Rebecca, he might still have a chance. Fang Hao squatted down and looked at Lei Lai, who was on the brink of death, and softly said, Lei Lai, do you think I'm a fool? The Faceless One, arranging assassins, capturing transmigrators. Which of these actions didn't warrant your death? Upon hearing Fang Hao's words, Lei Lai's eyes went instantly dim. Then they became frantic. Haha, you are Fang Hao, the #1 transmigrator? Indeed formidable. But killing me changes nothing. Rebecca will die, you all will die, including you, Fang Hao. The transmigrators you want to protect. During the interrogation, they weren't as steadfast about your secrets as you thought. Lei Lai spat blood and shouted loudly. His expression was distorted, as if releasing his final rage. After hearing Lei Lai's words, Fang Hao remained expressionless. He said calmly, "Well, goodbye, boss Lei Lai." The next second, with a swing of Demetrige's sword, Lei Lai's head dropped from his neck. It rolled on the ground. The boss of Lis City's grey industry died at the hands of Demetrige. See if there's anything valuable here. We'll leave in 5 minutes, Fang Hao continued. Everyone spread out, searched the warehouse again. In the basement, they found 2 small chests of gold coins. Fang Hao collected them and then they turned to leave. As for the scene left behind, they would leave that for the city guard to handle, as he had helped Rebecca with the killing. The remaining cleanup, naturally, was left to Rebecca. They can't do all the work for them. In the following days, Fang Hao stayed in Lis City for 3 days. During these 3 days, both shops were closed. The city was still somewhat in chaos. The 4 city gates were strictly checking those who entered and left. Nobles and wealthy merchants were not allowed to leave the city for any reason. Many wealthy people who planned to leave for shelter were forcibly kept here. Even a few who sneaked out were caught and thrown directly into jail. Fang Hao was not too interested in these matters. Having the Book of Lords and the skill of God's presence allowed him to easily stay in touch with the outside world. If there was any situation outside, he could return to his territory to handle matters through teleportation. Staying in Lis City was a rare few days of rest. After dinner today, Fang Hao received an invitation from Rebecca to go to the City Lord's mansion. After the past few days, the City Lord's mansion had been repaired, but the entire second-floor balcony had collapsed and was not easy to rebuild. The door opened. The 3 heroes also entered the room with Fang Hao. After all, the situation in the city was still unstable, and they needed to be guarded wherever they went. In the room, there was only Rebecca. Seeing the 3 heroes following along, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. In her heart, she mumbled that Fang Hao was really afraid of death. "Did you kill Lei Lai?" Rebecca leaned on her desk and asked. Although it had been 3 days since the incident, Rebecca could still confidently affirm that Fang Hao was responsible. In the city, the only ones who would have the resolution and courage to kill Lei Lai were her and Fang Hao, and the only one who would do it so decisively was just Fang Hao. Fang Hao didn't deny it, but directly asked, "How did the faceless clean up? Aubrey should have been caught, right?" Rebecca shook her head and said, "When the guards found Aubrey, his throat had been slit, and he was already dead, probably killed by another faceless. But we gained a lot from it this time. We found a lot of people from the military movements in the city these past few days. It was known that some faceless had been found, but the list of faceless that Fang Hao obtained was only a small part of what the guards had captured." Fang Hao put his hand into his pocket, intending to pull out the list he had obtained from the cranial rat. Before he could pull it out, he already heard Rebecca continue, "After this is over, I have something important to tell you." "Oh, just say it, why be so polite?" Fang Hao held the note in his hand. Rebecca frowned at the 3 heroes standing by Fang Hao's side, and continued, "There's nothing dangerous in this room. Could you 3 please wait outside the door?" The 3 heroes were stunned. They saw Fang Hao at the same time. Fang Hao was also curious about what Rebecca wanted to tell him, asking them to leave. "You 3 wait for me outside the door. After the conversation, we'll go back together," Fang Hao said. "Yes, sir." The 3 of them rechecked the safety of the room before closing the door and leaving. At this point, only Fang Hao and Rebecca were left in the room. "All right, now it's just the 2 of us. Whatever secret you have, you can just tell me straight away," Fang Hao joked. But when he looked up again, he found that Rebecca's cheeks immediately flushed. Even her neck and collarbone were blushing. She hesitated a bit before continuing. "You should have heard some rumors about Lis City." "Huh? What's up?" Fang Hao was a bit confused. "Although I am in control of Lis City, due to my own reasons, I can't gain recognition from the federal conference, so..." Rebecca's voice suddenly trailed off. Fang Hao still sat there, not understanding why Rebecca was telling him all this. He had indeed heard of these matters. But what did they have to do with him? Seeing that Fang Hao was still perplexed, Rebecca's face turned even redder. She gritted her teeth and said, "Since Aubrey is dead, I need a husband of human status to become the city lord of List City, while I remain as the lord's wife." Cough, cough. Upon hearing these words, Fang Hao choked and coughed twice. You're not. Yes. I need a man I can trust and who can also help List City to be its lord. I discussed with Rolana, and we think you are suitable. Plus, I don't have any objections towards you. Rebecca stepped forward, looking straight into his eyes. She spoke earnestly. Because of Rebecca's half-elf identity, the Federation wouldn't allow her to rule List City. Now that Aubrey was dead, she still needed a man to silence the members of the conference, preventing them from finding any reasons to take over the city. However, she had enough of Aubrey's incompetency and wanted to find a man who could actually be of help to List City, serving as her husband. These 2 days, she discussed all these matters with her supporters and Rolana. When discussing the requirements that the next lord of the city needed to meet, they realized it was difficult to find such a man in the city. Eventually, Rolana came up with a name, Fang Hao. If there was indeed a man in the city who could meet Rebecca's requirements, it would be Fang Hao and no one else. If there was, Rebecca wouldn't have picked Aubrey from the decadent nobles in the first place. So, after a thorough discussion, Rebecca went straight to Fang Hao and told him all of this. Fang Hao was shocked at the news. Who could have thought that she asked for him to be her husband? This seemed a little too abrupt. I treated you as a partner, and now you want to make a move on me. Fang Hao sat in the chair, completely taken aback. Are you joking with me? Rebecca wore a serious look, exhibiting no signs of jesting. Do you think I would joke about something like this? Given Rebecca's character, she certainly wouldn't joke about something like this. Yet, Fang Hao found himself curious. Rebecca knew about his identity as a transmigrator and that he was an outsider. So why would she choose him? It would be simpler for her to pick the second man in the city and live off him. Wasn't she afraid that the power he displayed would threaten her political power? I'm curious, why not take your time to find a local? Why the rush? Fang Hao asked, voicing his doubt. Rebecca explained. I received news that a representative from the council would arrive in List City within 3 days. Although I'm not sure about his purpose, List City cannot remain without a city lord during this time. While Rebecca was busy combating the faceless, she received news that someone from the council was already on the way. She suspected that this was part of Aubrey's plan. The plan was to have the council member arrive in List City right after murdering her. By then, the news of Rebecca's accidental death would naturally reach the ears of the council, solidifying Aubrey's position as the city lord. By the time it happened, even if the city guards found Rebecca's death suspicious, they wouldn't be able to investigate, because the power had shifted to Aubrey's hands. Aubrey's plans were meticulously arranged, with every step taken into account. Unfortunately, his plans ultimately failed, leaving Rebecca to deal with the mess. The council was inherently distrustful of Rebecca's identity. Therefore, she needed to secure a candidate for city lord before the council's arrival, not providing them with any opportunity to intervene. This seems rather unfair to you, Fang Hao remarked. She was marrying herself off to solidify her power. Fang Hao felt that this was rather unfair to Rebecca. Equality is present in every corner of this city. Everyone bends over backward to survive. Compared to them, I'm better off. Besides, I promised the former city lord to take care of this city. I won't give it up easily. Rebecca looked up at the ceiling, speaking softly. Though her voice was faint, the firm conviction could be clearly felt. Compared to Pruel City, List City was much more developed. Only here did Fang Hao feel like he was in an actual city. Everywhere else felt like small towns or villages. Fang Hao thought for a moment, scratched his head, and said, Rebecca, you don't really know me. What's there not to know? Rebecca asked. She had elf bloodline, inheriting a portion of the elf race's appearance and lifespan. Moreover, she was one of the leading beauties. No way she couldn't handle a young man like him. Oh well, I own a large territory, and I already have several women by my side. After pondering, Fang Hao decided to disclose these facts. His camp mainly consisted of the undead, and his main forces were undead troops. Given Rebecca was an important figure in the Human Clans Federation of the 100 Cities, she might not be able to accept this. Moreover, he also had to consider Rolana's feelings. Anything else? Rebecca asked, expressionless. Oh no, that's it, Fang Hao replied. I'm aware of your territory, and it's not a bad thing for Lis City. As for the womanizing, I won't interfere with you. Don't worry. Rebecca gave a small smile. She had learned some details about Fang Hao from Rolana. Fang Hao's power could greatly benefit the development of Lis City. She could leverage Fang Hao's power to accelerate the development of Lis City, performing tasks she couldn't do previously with his help. She considered this aspect thoroughly. As for Fang Hao's womanizing, she wouldn't interfere, as long as he behaved like a stand-in husband when needed. That would be enough. Fang Hao continued to emphasize, no. You don't understand my point. I own a territory. If you choose me, your city will become an affiliate city under my territory. Do you understand what I mean? This was the key message Fang Hao wanted to convey. Lis City was an independent entity within the Federation of the 100 Cities, essentially functioning as an autonomous city. Although Rebecca was under the council's suspicion and surveillance, she still had the right to govern the entire city. But once she positioned Fang Hao as the city lord, with her being the city lord's wife, in accordance with the Book of Lords rules, Lis City would be categorized as an affiliate city in the territory, and Rebecca would become the city governor. Her role would change from a sovereign to a city lord. These positions had significant differences. I can accept that, but you must guarantee my position in Lis City, including control over the army and the city. Rebecca responded quickly. Rolana has mentioned all these points to her before. According to Rolana, Fang Hao possessed the power to deter and defeat the Federation of the 100 Cities. Moreover, there was a possibility of warfare between Fang Hao and the Federation in the future, and then Lis City would be stuck in the middle, in a dangerous position. So, it would be better to pick a side beforehand, without going to war. This city is a part of the 100 Cities, and also a subsidiary city of Fang Hao. Once the war begins, the 100 Cities won't trust them either. So it's better to seize this opportunity and stand by Fang Hao's side. All of this, she and Rolana had discussed before talking to Fang Hao about it. On the side, Fang Hao was also considering this matter. If it hadn't happened so suddenly, he would have liked to go back and discuss it with Nelson. But everything Rebecca said doesn't have any downside to him. It's nothing more than a fake marriage with him. Not only is there an additional bustling subsidiary city, but there is also a large population to provide divinity and increase the power of faith. Truly it is a win-win scenario for both sides. Fang Hao took another look at Rebecca, who was dressed in a bone-themed cheongsam today, the tightly fastened high collar making her look more upright, the fullness in her chest without any sense of excess, the wrapped hips and slightly tight waist revealed an impressive figure, especially the slits on both sides. While leaning on the desk, it exposed her round and tender long legs. He doesn't seem to be at a disadvantage either. After pondering back and forth, Fang Hao said, I can agree to your proposal. You will still be responsible for Lis City. I won't interfere in regular affairs. However, anything that contradicts the overall development of my territory, the development of the territory must be the priority. Agreed, Rebecca responded, standing up from her leaning posture. She walked to Fang Hao's side. Let's go. I will introduce you at the hall. I still need to focus on investigating the faceless. Both of them left the room. 3 heroes and guards of the city lord's mansion followed behind them. They all proceeded to the hall. Once they reached the hall, Rebecca introduced. Here is the city lord's mansion. I will announce your ascension to city lord later. Whoosh! Once these words were spoken, the whole place immediately erupted in astonished exclamations. No one expected that just after a private chat in the room, Fang Hao became the city lord. Plus, it wasn't even 2 days since Aubrey's death. Yuanjia was about to exclaim. Fang Hao covered her mouth and said, I'll explain it to you later. Angia did not have any particular objection to this, but since she is close to Fang Hao, she had heard about the affair between Rolana and Rebecca. If Fang Hao and Rebecca teamed up together, who could bear the fury of that woman? Okay. Angia quickly nodded her head. Fang Hao didn't stand on ceremony. He directly walked towards the city lord's seat in the hall and sat down. The very moment his buttocks touched the seat, system prompts started appearing in succession. This city has become your subsidiary city. Rename the city here. All resources of the city and its subsidiary villages can be controlled by you. The appearance of the system prompt represented that Lis City had officially become Fang Hao's subsidiary city. He never thought that he would conquer another city through marriage, cooperating with Rebecca to clean up the faceless in the city. After all the hustle, he himself ended up sitting here. Indeed, life is always unpredictable. In short, this place now belongs to Fang Hao. Moreover, with the addition of Liz City, the population of humans in his territory surpassed the orcs, becoming the race with the highest population. He opened the Book of Lords and directly filled in Rebecca's name under the governor column, successfully set Rebecca as the governor of Liz City. Rebecca's current loyalty to you, 90 points. As soon as he set Rebecca as the governor, her loyalty emerged. Starting with 90 points, this loyalty is scarily high, and not at all like the original residents joining. It's even higher than the loyalty of those summoned by recruitment coupons. Such high loyalty should have a direct relation to Fang Hao's help in capturing the faceless and later rescuing her. Rebecca's trust in Fang Hao even surpasses most of the other city officials. Liz City. City level, 12th level ancient original city. Attributes: food production plus 30%, population growth plus 30%, city prosperity plus 25%, commerce plus 20%, military plus 20%. Description: a city with attributes can bring various bonus effects, accelerating city construction and development. The city level of Liz City is surprisingly a level 12 ancient city. This level has surpassed Fang Hao's main city level, making it the highest level city within his territory. Although he does not understand the specialty of ancient cities, the bonus attributes are the most and the largest among all the cities. This makes it clear why Liz City is different from other cities. No wonder its population is several times more than other cities. These bonus attributes are enough to make it far ahead of other cities. Just when Fang Hao thought everything was over, another system prompt appeared. Due to your affiliated alignment, the statue of the God of Light will stop functioning. Your actions have drawn the attention of the God of Light. 2 successive messages appeared in front of Fang Hao. As an undead alignment, he knew he could not construct the statue of the God of Light, but he never encountered a situation where an existing statue stopped functioning due to a change in city alignment. Moreover, it seems like his actions have drawn the attention of the God of Light. For him, this isn't a good thing. The strength that the quasi-god Lord of Thunder showed the last time he met him was already beyond the common heroes. He had consumed tens of thousands of people just to manage to kill him. This time he drawn the attention of a real god. So he needed to be cautious and careful, but he didn't need to worry too much about such matters. Gods naturally had great power, but there were definitely rules limiting them as well. As long as the God of Light didn't personally descend, he had nothing to fear. After looking at the city's attributes, Fang Hao stood back up from his seat. According to the agreement, Rebecca was still in charge here. Unless what happened here conflicted with Fang Hao's plan, he wouldn't interfere with the rest of Rebecca's actions. Actually, right now, all cities and Transmigrated cities operated this way, and Fang Hao rarely intervened. Moreover, considering the current development trend of Liz City, he might not even match Rebecca's management ability. He might end up causing more problems with his interference. Sitting back down in his chair, Fang Hao continued, "What are your plans regarding the faceless?" He'd originally planned to use this opportunity to hand the faceless list to Rebecca, but he didn't expect that after being so busy, he'd ended up annexing this place as a subsidiary city instead. So he never managed to give her the list. That's what I'm worried about. Before the Federation people arrive, I need to suppress this issue. Even if I can't catch them, I have to ensure nothing unusual happens on the day they arrive. Rebecca sat down in a seat nearby and softly spoke. This issue is easy to solve. I can offer you a solution, Fang Hao said. Now, it's time for me to shine as the city lord. Oh? What's your solution? Fang Hao took out the list and pushed it across the table to her. Here's the list of all the faceless people in the city. You can catch them according to the names listed. It's faster than interrogating and investigating one by one. Really? Rebecca didn't believe it and picked up the list to glance at it. As she read, her disbelief slowly vanished. That was because a portion of the names on the list had been confirmed as faceless and had been arrested in the past 2 days. The rest of the people on the list were mostly already under investigation, so the list's accuracy was virtually confirmed. Where did you get this from? Why didn't you give it to me earlier? Rebecca frowned and asked. Fang Hao explained. I got this list at a great cost after the incident at the City Lord Mansion. I intended to give it to you today. He'd obtained this intelligence from the cranial rats, but it had cost him the body of a purple-tier hero. This was a steep price, something ordinary people weren't capable of paying. All right, thanks. Rebecca smiled gently. Rebecca's loyalty towards you increases by 5 points. Current loyalty is 95. When she was putting away the list, Rebecca's loyalty increased by another 5 points. At this rate, she should quickly reach 100 points. By then, even if she hadn't signed a slave contract with Fang Hao, once it reached 100, she wouldn't betray him anyway. You're welcome, we're family. Fang Hao casually dismissed, then remembered something and asked, by the way, does this mean I can live in the City Lord mansion from now on? Yes, the place where Aubrey lived has already been vacated. You can stay there. In the City Lord mansion, Aubrey and Rebecca each had separate living quarters. Now that Aubrey was dead, his room had naturally been freed up. Moreover, considering the size of the City Lord mansion, it was more than enough for Fang Hao and his people. All right, Aseti, arrange it this afternoon. We'll move over here to live. Fang Hao didn't hold back at all. Yes, my lord. Aseti immediately agreed. After all the arrangements were put in order, Rebecca still had to deal with the faceless matter. All right, if there's anything else, let's talk over dinner. I need to handle the faceless issue as soon as possible. The two groups separated. Rebecca went to gather her troops to capture the faceless according to the list. Meanwhile, Fang Hao started moving house to officially take up residence in the City Lord mansion. At the same time, all the guards in his living quarters were replaced with Lionheart Knights to ensure Fang Hao's safety. In the afternoon, the news of Fang Hao becoming the City Lord was posted all over the city. There was no grand wedding ceremony, nor a visit to the temple for divine blessings. Instead, notices were posted on city bulletin boards, confirming Fang Hao's identity as the City Lord, as well as his marriage to Rebecca. Currently, there aren't many people in the streets. However, this news would soon spread throughout the city, and everyone would then know about it. 3 o'clock. Fang Hao was sitting in his room in the City Lord house. Nearby were a few of his heroes. He simply explained to them about his sudden ascension as the City Lord. In summary, Fang Hao was playing the role of a husband. This prevented the Federal Conference from having an excuse to take over, and he managed to peacefully take control of this level 12 subsidiary city. When Fang Hao relayed Rebecca's words, injustice happens everywhere. I'm fortunate to still have the chance to choose. Everyone showed a measure of admiration for this woman. Those words perfectly represented the societal ethos of this era. War has never ceased, and survival of the fittest occurs at every corner. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door. Come in. The door opened. It was the Lionheart Knight, standing guard outside. Sir, the priest from the temple is here, waiting for you in the hall. The priest from the temple was, of course, Miriam. Why did she come to see him? He was a fraudulent city lord. All right, let's go out and see. After saying that, Fang Hao led his people to the City Lord house's main hall. As soon as they entered the hall, they saw Miriam sitting there. But Miriam appeared to be in good shape. Her once old and wrinkled skin seemed much younger than before. Priest Miriam, you were looking for me? Fang Hao asked curiously. Miriam stood up and courteously saluted, City Lord. There was no surprise or doubt in her expression, obviously. She had already received the news that Fang Hao was now the City Lord. Take a seat. Fang Hao took a seat on the side as well. Miriam sat down again. A maid brought over fruit tea. City Lord, there's some trouble at the temple. Miriam started speaking directly after sitting down. Priestess Miriam, shouldn't you be discussing this issue with Rebecca? It's actually quite difficult for me, as the City Lord, to mobilize resources and manpower in the city. Fang Hao directly responded. Though this city was his subsidiary city, in the eyes of its residents and soldiers, he was merely Rebecca's husband, an empty figurehead of a city lord. According to the agreement he had with Rebecca, he would not interfere with her powers in this city. In any case, it would be more beneficial to seek Rebecca's help in the city than his own. It's Lady Rebecca who asked me to come to you. Miriam held her staff in front of her, gazing straight ahead. Oh, then let's talk. What do you need? For some reason, divine blessings will no longer be bestowed upon the city, and the God of Light statue in the temple has developed cracks. Miriam elaborated while making church gestures. Upon hearing Miriam's words, Fang Hao immediately remembered the system notification he'd seen after taking over the city. Due to a factional conflict, the God of Light statue would lose its function. Not only could the temple priest sense this, even the divine statue had cracked too. Fang Hao looked at Miriam and asked, "Do you know why?" "I'm not sure. Perhaps the bishop might receive some divine revelations," Miriam replied. "So, Priestess Miriam, did you come here to have me do something for the temple? Repair the statue?" Fang Hao continued to inquire. Many residents of Lis City worship the God of Light. Even if the statue is broken, it cannot be simply thrown out of the temple. They would need to gradually transition its role, then replace it with a statue of the king. Upon hearing Fang Hao's words, Miriam fell silent. As if making some kind of decision, she finally spoke. "City Lord, my son will stay here. His identity does not allow him to settle down in other cities, so I have decided to stay. Although I can't continue serving as a priestess of the light, I can pass on my knowledge." Miriam's son was a half-demon, not to mention going to other human cities. Even in Lis City, he had to tread carefully. Once his identity was exposed, even if he had never committed any wrong, his half-demon status would warrant a death sentence. Therefore, for her son's sake, Miriam did not plan to leave. After hearing Miriam's reason, Fang Hao did not show any surprise. In his opinion, although Miriam is a believer, she was not a fanatic. Otherwise, she wouldn't have kept the half-demon a secret from the church. Leaving the Church of Light to stay here could be understood. "I can agree to this on behalf of Rebecca. You can continue to stay in the temple. The temple will undergo refurbishment and adjustments, and you can still be the priestess." Fang Hao agreed directly. Miriam pondered for a bit, but did not reject the offer. "I understand, City Lord. I will do my job. Yes, when the time is right, I will provide your son with an identity, allowing him regular access to Lis City, ensuring no one would pass judgment on him based on his identity." Upon hearing Fang Hao's words, a noticeable change appeared on Miriam's face. Murky eyes, at this moment, flashed a special light. "Thank you, sir. I understand," Miriam replied. "Good, go on with your work. You don't have to worry about the changes in the city. The army won't interfere with the temple." "Yes, my lord." Miriam left, and Fang Hao returned to his own room. Before dinner, Fang Hao met with Rolana. He also met several officials in the city. Unlike Fang Hao's other subsidiary cities, Lis City had a complete official system. Everyone had a fixed scope of responsibility. Unlike Fang Hao in his land, apart from himself and the heroes, there were a bunch of undeads. After dinner, Fang Hao used demon teleportation to return to his main territory. Lis City had become Fang Hao's subsidiary territory. He could use the teleportation screen to directly teleport into the City Lord's Hall, rather than in the center of the city. This was enough to meet his conditions for commuting back and forth. Just like going to work, he would go to Lis City during the day and return to his territory to rest at night. The teleportation screen appeared in the main city, and Fang Hao, along with Demetrija and Angia, emerged from it. Returning to his own home made him feel a lot more at ease instantly. He didn't have to worry about encountering any unforeseen dangers. "Master, you're back." Ira walked over with her maids. "Yes. Anything happen in the city lately?" Fang Hao asked with a smile. Just as Ira was about to answer, she was put gently to one side by Angia. "I have something important to tell you." Angia pulled Ira away as she proceeded to speak. Ira, being pulled away, hurriedly called back. "Scholar Nelson is out, and there is a skeleton hero." After saying this sentence, she was pulled back to the city lord's mansion by Angia. The other maids, after greeting Fang Hao, also left one after another to attend to their own matters. Fang Hao was well aware of Nelson's reappearance. The demon rat hero corpse that was swapped by the cranial rat was only transported to Lis City after Nelson confirmed that it did not carry any viruses. Otherwise, Fang Hao would not dare to transport such a corpse to the densely populated Lis City. The new skeleton hero who came out with Nelson must be the orange hero from Blood Mountain Range. Meet Vistkaius. He walked out of the Lord's mansion and went straight to the Visra Museum. As soon as he entered the first floor of the lobby, he saw some funeral priests making medicines and ceremonial materials. "Lord." One of the priests greeted Fang Hao respectfully as he saw him. Where is Scholar Nelson?" Fang Hao asked. The priest responded, "The scholar is on the second floor." "I will notify him." Please wait a while, my lord. The priest bowed again and quickly walked towards the second floor. The Viscera Museum, unlike other buildings, always gives people a sense of gloom and coldness, having a variety of organs and materials stored inside. If it wasn't necessary, Fang Hao had no plans to go to the second floor himself. Before long, footsteps sounded from the stairs. Nelson was slowly walking down with a tall troll skeleton hero. My lord. Nelson bowed slightly, while the tall skeleton hero behind him knelt on one knee, showing even more reverence. The skeleton hero was tall, clad in heavy armor, had sturdy palms, and wore a pair of large gloves covered with scales. Meatist Orange Rank 3. As expected, it was the Orange Hero, Caius, the leader who had planned to lead the trolls out of the Blood Mountain range. Now, he had become a skeleton hero, loyal only to Fang Hao's territory and heroes. Meatfist Orange Rank 3. Camp, Undead. Template, Gold Racial Traits, Undead. Hollow Skeleton, Light Vulnerability. Legion Talent, Giant Leader. Concentration of Power, Fight or Die. Skills, Sturdiness, Multiple Attacks, Build Up Punch. Ignore Pain, Fury of the Berserker. Innate Abilities, Advanced Combat Mastery, Advanced Defense Mastery, Field Fist Mastery. Giant Leader, this unit leads troll-type troops, including troll, giant descendants, skeleton trolls. Increasing attack power by 50%, critical hit chance by 20%, movement speed by 5%, morale by 20%. When the army stays at standby state, extra 1% morale recovery is added. Concentration of power. This unit boosts all attributes of infantry, ranged, and cavalry troops in the army by 20% when leading them simultaneously. Build-up punch active. Swings a build-up punch forward. Damage increased by 300%. Ignore pain active. All damage received decreases by 50%. Immune to all control effects. Lasts for 15 seconds. Fury of the Berserker active. Enters a rage state. Critical hit chance increases by 10%. Attack speed increases by 25%. Dodge chance increases by 20%. Movement speed increases by 20%. Last for 20 seconds. Description. Product of an immortal corpse witch. Not recognized by the god of Undead. This hero cannot level up or promote. Meatfist is an orange combat-oriented hero. All attributes and skills are more oriented towards combat and attack. If compared with the newly joined Asceti, Meatfist emphasizes personal combat power more, while Asceti is more like a commander. There is still a certain difference between the two. Welcome to join us, Meatfist. Fang Hao also spoke. After being made into a skeleton hero, their original names were removed, only retaining the nicknames of their former hero life. Like Blood Hunter, Fireblade, these names are still good. It sounds pretty impressive. But Meatfist doesn't sound as domineering when you hear it. Thank you, my lord. Meatfist stood up, respectfully waiting on the side. Well, Meatfist, you go out and work with Rock Leader to be responsible for the city's defense and patrol, continued Fang Hao. Yes, my lord. Meatfist took his orders, striding towards the city gate. After Meatfist left, Fang Hao recounted the events that had taken place during this time to Nelson, from beginning to end. This included killing the quasi-god, the Lord of Thunder God, subsequently marrying Rebecca and incorporating the level 12 city of Liss into his territory as a subsidiary city. Nelson remained silent, quietly listening to the account of everything that had happened in his domain while he was sequestered away in work. He also expressed approval of Fang Hao's decisions. Perhaps some matters could have been handled better in hindsight, but Fang Hao's initial actions were reasonable given the circumstances. After chatting with Nelson for a while, Fang Hao returned to the Lord's Mansion. In front of the Lord's Mansion, Fang Hao opened the Book of Lords, searching for the newly obtained blueprint. Diverted Underground Drainage System Blueprint. Level 10 City Diverted Underground Drainage System. Hardwickers 27,500, Stone Bricks 58,200, Fine Stone Bricks 34,700, Pig Iron Block 7,500, White Steel Ingot 3,750, Metal Parts 1,570, Trace of the Earth 5. Description. Set up the divided drainage system for sewerage and rainwater beneath the city, each with their own independent pipe system, separately collecting and draining sewage and rainwater. The current city level of the main city is level 10. All required materials are available in the warehouse and construction can begin immediately. The ground began to tremble softly. The maids, thinking it was an earthquake, hastily fled the buildings. Seeing Fang Hao standing in front of the Lord's mansion, they all rushed over in concern. Fang Hao explained to them that a sewer system was being built. However, the maids still stood by Fang Hao's side, waiting together for the construction to finish. After about half an hour, the ground ceased to shake. Level 10 diverted underground drainage system has been completed. From now on, dealing with rainfall and drainage from the territory will be much more convenient. After the sewer system was completed, Ira had dinner ready. She informed Fang Hao that it was time to eat. After dinner, Fang Hao leisurely soaked in the hot spring, enjoying the evening's comfort. Ira walked in with fruit wine and a fruit platter, sitting down beside Fang Hao, without Fang Hao needing to lift a finger. Her delicate hand picked up a piece of fruit, feeding it to Fang Hao. Fang Hao took a bite and the sweet taste of the fruit and the aroma of the wine exploded in his mouth. What is this? Fang Hao asked curiously, trying it for the first time. Ira smiled and replied, just fruit soaked in wine. How does it taste? It's delicious, Fang Hao commented while chewing. Ira's face blossomed with joy, feeding the fruit to Fang Hao one piece at a time. Just as Fang Hao was enjoying Ira's attentive service, the Book of Lords suddenly buzzed with a private message. Fang Hao opened it and found it was from Deng Bin, the lord who sold him flax. Deng Bin is a woman, but both her name and appearance are more masculine, especially last time. She had sent Fang Hao a photo of herself. Under the torch's light, her thin face, cropped hair, and full-arm tattoos gave off an intimidating impression. However, she revealed a straightforward and outgoing personality in later collaborations, and thanks to her continuous supply of flax to Fang Hao, providing ample food and clothing supplies, she quickly developed her territorial strength. Her main city had reached level 7, and the number of troops in the city was also over 500, making her a middle to upper class lord in the channel. But reaching level 7 to further upgrade the main city, she needed tiles. Even at this point, not many lords have tiles. The largest seller of tiles in the channel was still Fang Hao. Lord Fang Hao, I want to purchase some tiles from you. Is that okay? Deng Bin cut straight to the point. Fang Hao replied, of course it is. Right now, our tile production is still quite plentiful. The main city as well as Zhu Yan's territory were both producing tiles. In particular, the territory where Zhu Yang now lives used to belong to Quzhai Shang. It had a tile production base, with a large number of kilns producing tiles. Well, bro, you know I don't have much money. I have a blueprint here. It's pretty good. I want to exchange it for 1,200 units of tiles. Blueprint for precision parts production blue. Upon seeing the name of the blueprint, Fang Hao felt a stir in his heart. The name precision parts was all too familiar to Fang Hao. When he had killed construct units in the past, they had dropped this type of material. Fang Hao had initially accumulated some, planning to use them in the construction units later. However, not long ago he had recruited some dwarves, and all of the precision parts had been used up when they were building the Great Mountain Furnace. Now, there was no stock of precision parts in his repository. The blueprint of precision parts belonged to special materials that regular weapons and equipment didn't require. They only came in handy for constructed units, or precise machinery. Unexpectedly, Deng Bin had obtained one. How did you obtain it? Fang Hao asked. Could it be that Deng Bin also had some construct unit scenery, and thus obtained this blueprint? Deng Bin did not hide anything, he directly replied. I exchanged it with the dwarves. They are selling some items like firearms, so I plan to accumulate enough warfire coins and buy some from them. So it had come from the dwarves. Precision parts, besides being used in constructed units, were also applied in dwarven machinery. Blueprints for firearms or various cannons required precision parts. It seemed that Deng Bin's territory was near the dwarves. After understanding this, Fang Hao did not ask further. He agreed directly, all right. I will list the clay bricks for trade. You can directly exchange them. Okay, thanks, boss. Deng Bin gratefully thanked him. If you come across any good blueprints with the dwarves, do contact me. If you don't have enough funds, I can buy them. Fang Hao added. Understood, I get it, but I must wait until the next time the dwarves come. I will contact you when there's new stock. Deng Bin naturally understood Fang Hao's proposal. Deng Bin didn't have many warfire coins. It was difficult for him to acquire any high-level blueprints. But Fang Hao was loaded, and even had spare cash that he had nowhere to spend. She could act as an intermediary to help complete the transactions. The two ended the transaction. 1,200 clay bricks disappeared, and a blueprint for precision parts appeared in Fan Hao's possession. He recorded it directly in the Book of Lords. Precision components: 2 cast iron blocks, 1 fine iron. Materials for the precision parts had already included fine iron. No wonder Deng Bin had sold the blueprint to him. Even if she had acquired the blueprint, it would be hard to mass produce without fine iron. It made more sense to exchange it for something she needed. After ending conversation with Deng Bin, Fang Hao continued to soak in the hot spring. The next day, early in the morning, after breakfast, Fang Hao used the demon teleportation and directly arrived at Lyci City. Originally, this city belonged to the Stonehead tribe. After Fang Hao gifted it to the dwarves, they renamed it Lyci City. When Fang Hao, Angia, and Demetrius stepped out of the teleportation light curtain, they saw a few dwarves had surrounded them. These dwarves were bare-chested, their solid and exaggerated muscles exposed. In their hands, they held crossbows, firearms, pickaxes, all sorts of weapons, vigilantly watching the group of 3. "I am Fang Hao. Summon Belerga to see me." Fang Hao declared his identity promptly. The dwarves were the race that had the least interaction with Fang Hao. Dwarves only knew that there was a human city lord who helped them rebuild Lyci City, but most of them didn't know what the city lord looked like. Even those who have seen him once might have a vague memory due to the passing time. On the other hand, Demetrius' lizardman figure was remembered by some of the dwarves. Soon, one of them said, "I recognize that lizardman. He must be the city lord. Quickly, go call the clan leader." As the dwarves whisper, someone quickly leaves to find Belerga. Not long after, the crowd made way and Belerga, alongside a group of dwarven elites, swiftly headed over. Upon seeing Fang Hao, he immediately greeted, "City Lord." Dwarves might be hot-tempered and impulsive, but they retained their respect towards Fang Hao, the one providing them with a stable living environment. Tell everyone to disperse. There's no issue here," Fang Hao said. Belerga nodded, and immediately ordered the observers to disperse and return to their respective positions to continue their work. When everyone had dispersed, Belerga continued to ask, "City Lord, do you have any instructions for this visit?" "Not much, we have sufficient materials now. Planning to build 2 more mountain furnaces for you," Fang Hao said casually. Initially, he only built a large mountain furnace for dwarves due to a lack of precision parts. But yesterday, he received the blueprint of precision parts from Deng Bin. Now, the conditions to continue building the mountain furnace have been met. It could also increase the speed of iron ore melting, ensuring a consistent material supply for making equipment. Upon hearing Fang Hao's words, Belerga was instantly elated. Stroking his wire-like beard in excitement, he said, "That's excellent. This will significantly speed up production." Seeing his reaction, Fang Hao smiled at him, saying, "That's what I was thinking, too." The group moved out of the city. Lyci City was located in a peculiar locale, situated amidst 3 tall mountains. Previously, one of these mountains was chosen for the construction of the mountain furnace. This time, Fang Hao planned to use the other 2 mountains as the foundation for his furnaces. Taking Belerga to the front of the mountains, Fang Hao opened the Book of Lords and found the blueprint for the mountain furnace. Mountain Belly Great Furnace. Wood 15,750, stone 1,258,850, hardwood 27,580, fine masonry bricks 185,470, thick leather 5,435, iron 15,820, cast iron blocks 8,575, metal parts 1,255, precision parts 420, red flame essence 22, perfect essence 10. Start with the production of precision parts first. Precision parts. Cast iron blocks 2, fine iron 1. Set the production quantity to 10. 100-fold amplification triggered. Obtained 1010 precision parts. After having enough precision parts, Fang Hao continued to the 2 mountains and chose to build the Mountain Belly Great Furnace. A light enveloped the 2 mountains. Bit by bit, the furnace structure was built. Shortly, the furnace was completed and Fang Hao finished his task too. Belerga, along with the dwarves who followed, looked at the newly built furnace with excitement, blushing and somewhat unbelievably thrilled. Eight Peaks Mountain only had one great furnace, and they already had three here. In a sense, they have the foundation to surpass Eight Peaks Mountain. As long as they continue to develop steadily, regaining what they lost is not impossible. I will have the ores mined by the trolls and orcs transported here. The beasts and dangers on the way need to be cleared out to ensure the safety of the transport team. Fang Hao closed the Book of Lords. Okay, sir. I will organize a team to clear out the beasts on the road once I get back. Belerga immediately agreed. Fang Hao nodded, leading a few people towards the city. Well, let's go back. I have some buildings that need to be constructed for you. A few people returned to Lycee City. Fang Hao continued to build the diversion underground pipeline, temple and king statue in the city. He also made a large number of trolleys, mine tracks, mine carts and some production tools that would be used when the statue of the king was erected in the temple. The dwarves were all watching, their heads tilted back to look. Their height barely reached the base of the statue. Sir, this is a statue of the king. If necessary, we can make a metal one for you. Belerga curiously looked at the statue modeled after Fang Hao. Eight Peaks Mountain also had a giant king iron statue, made entirely of metal. It represented the greatest dwarf king, but it was much larger than Fang Hao's, and unlike the stone carving of Fang Hao's, the dwarf's was pure metal. Ah, this is good enough, no need. Fang Hao declined the dwarf's kindness. The establishment of the statue was just to gather faith for his divinity. Whether a statue made of iron could collect faith or not was questionable, and there was no need to waste effort and time. Then, Fang Hao asked, there is still a vacant spot for a statue in the temple. What do you plan to build there? If possible, we could build a statue of the Forge God. Belerga said. The Forge God, it was clear what he did just by the name. But Fang Hao didn't have this statue. I only have 4 statues in my possession. The Goddess of Harvest, the Slaughter God, the Undead God, and the God of Deception. Then let's go with Goddess of Harvest, said Belerga without hesitation. The Goddess of Harvest not only enhanced the planting, but also boosted the industry, and the other 3 were not suitable for the dwarves, so he could only choose the Goddess of Harvest. Fang Hao nodded and built a statue of the Goddess of Harvest on the other pedestal. After finishing, Fang Hao chatted with Belerga. The dwarves who went to Lycee City to learn at the temple have been very diligent. When they come back, they can use their knowledge of herbal medicine to treat everyone's illnesses. Thank you for your care, sir. Belerga also nodded his head. Fang Hao and Belerga chatted a bit in the city. After giving the dwarf several troll brewing barrels, he returned to his territory using the teleportation array. Time flew by, and 3 days later, Rebecca had shown unprecedented determination in these days. She followed the list of anonymous names and conducted a purge of the nobles and merchants throughout the city. Once confirmed, without exception, all were executed, without any tedious interrogations. Everyone on the list was eliminated within 3 days, regardless of their status. How complex their background was, there were no exceptions. When Fang Hao heard about this, he was also shocked at Rebecca's decisiveness. At 10 a.m., in front of the Lycee City Lord Mansion, Rebecca was standing outside waiting. From a distance, 3 carriages under cavalry escort stopped in front of the City Lord's mansion. The servants opened the carriage door. A middle-aged man with lavish clothing came down from the carriage slowly. Upon seeing Rebecca, he bowed like a gentleman. Lady Rebecca. Seeing the man's face, Rebecca also greeted. Oh, it's Mr. Hubert. Even though both parties maintained the etiquette of nobility, their words were filled with distance. It seemed that they were just maintaining surface courtesy. Behind Hubert, another middle-aged man in brocade stepped down. He wore gold rings on his fingers, with an air of a nouveau riche. Lady Rebecca, this is Mr. Groot from the Marshall family. Hubert continued to introduce. Hearing about the Marshall family, Rebecca looked at this man again. Also with a smile, welcome to Lycee City. Mr. Groot. Groot's eye swept up and down Rebecca, seeming a bit lost for words. When Rebecca greeted him, Groot smiled and said, Nice to meet you, Lady Rebecca. You are even more beautiful than the rumors say.